I love what you just said because it's also like a representation of Jesus. You know, the scribes and the Pharisees, they were only going in the temple places where they felt safe. But where was Jesus? You know, talking about God in the red zone, in the places like it was considered.
Everybody is a different shade of the rainbow. Everybody is a different color. To look for the good in everybody, right? It's hard to do, but it takes like some listening, some seeking, some curiosity.
Who does not slander with his tongue, does no harm to a friend, never defames a neighbor.
Mm.
For me, that one. So the first, for number two, it talks about accountability.
Mhm.
Number three, it talks about gossip. Yeah, like gossip can do so much. It could create a bubble around somebody that doesn't need a bubble around.
Mhm.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Walk. Today, we're going to be talking about Psalms, the different hymns in the Psalms, and how we reflect on them. We're going to dive deep into the sections and see if those reflections also resonate with you guys. So, welcome. Enjoy the show. Leave a like, comment your Psalms, and share it along with your friends and family if the Psalm reflects with you. All right, guys. You guys ready for it?
Hell yeah.
I did.
As a matter of fact, I want to start with reciting Psalms 91. It's called My Refuge and My Fortress. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wing you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked, because you have made the Lord your dwelling place, the Most High, who is my refuge. No evil shall be allowed to befall you, no plague come near your tent, for he will command his angel concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the adder, the young lion and the serpent you will trample underfoot, because he holds fast to me in love. I will deliver him, I will protect him, because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and honor him with long life, and I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. That's probably one of my favorite songs, guys. And do you think this psalm is a praise or a lamentation? How do you interpret it?
I believe it is. I think it's both. I think it's both for praise and lamentation. Because at the same time, he's like praising to God in the sense that God will protect him and God will keep him through. But at the same time, as that's going on, it's kind of like a lamentation because then it's like 1,000 or 4,000 will go through this. Say, like, protect me
Mm.
from it. So it's a praise of knowing that God will protect, but then it's like, hey, God, it's like protect me
Yeah,
too. It's
yeah.
like a double.
It's almost like he sounds like he's a little bit going through some fear. Because when he says 1,000 might fall on my left or to my right, and like he also talks about pestilence, like deceiver, like he would not, nothing will touch him, even if the whole surroundings are, full of pestilence. It's kind of very deep what he talks about, especially how I believe David writes this one, and he speaks about how God protects you like a bird under his its wings, So I think that is very powerful, because when you see a bird protecting their child, they will give their life for their child. They will put them in a place where before you touch them, you have to go through the mama bird, right? So I think it's pretty captivating to hear the comparisons of protection, and then he goes a little bit takes it further, especially in war. I think he's referring to war. Like in war, like everyone can die. There can be all these weapons coming at you, and then because I have faith in you, I know that I will come out. You know, not I will come back alive. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love your faithfulness is my shield, and I look at this psalm as a praise psalm because when you're going through deep like spiritual suffering or you're encountering like a battle in your personal life, when you pray that psalm, it like makes the demons flee away from you. And I think it is because you're praising God in the midst of trial. Because like, the gates of hell, they want you to fall into despair. They want you to fall into hopelessness. And so when you read that psalm, he's proclaiming like God's goodness. Like, and I love the image of that. His faithfulness is a shield. Like you can battle anything because he's with you. And like it's such a beautiful like flip upside down to like when you're going through upheaval to sit on your knees and praise because that's like a sword that cuts through anything because the storms can rage against you externally, but your internal garden and your battlefield to remain unshaken, like that is something that's unheard of. So yeah, I think that's beautiful.
What other songs you guys have that you believe impacted you?
Oh, okay, perfect, perfect.
Oh, he got the quick look up.
Oh, okay. I kind of want to like break it down from the parts
Okay.
a little bit too. You who dwell in my shelter, the Most High, who abide in the shade of the Almighty. Say to the Lord, my refuge and fortress, my God in whom I trust. So that was like what we were talking about, like
Yeah.
shield, right? Like that shield part. There's a
The protection.
yes, yes. He will rescue you from the fellow's snares, from the destroying plague. He'll shelter you with his pinions, and under his wings you may take refuge.
So, what is the meaning of refugee?
Mhm.
We need to understand what that means. Refugee is a place where you're going to that you feel safe. Like people that are coming off from another country and find refuge in a country where that not being persecuted. That's what it means. Like you're being persecuted by demons, persecuted by people, persecuted by many factors. But then if you go and find refuge in the Lord, what happens is like you know that even the shadow of the Lord is going to protect you. So it's actually very impactful, those first lines.
Yeah, definitely. Refuge is definitely amazing for that God will provide that, for you just for having that faith into him, man. And when God provides you that refuge from shielding you off from those plagues, like you there is a power and empowering in that, right? There's like a little power in there. Um we're gonna it's okay we still go line by
Yeah,
line? Yeah,
yeah,
we'll do two lines.
yeah. Go ahead, man.
Where did I leave off? You shall not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that roams in darkness, nor the plague that ravages at noon.
I think I believe that this psalm is beautiful because it talks about how you need to evolve from finding refuge to being empowered. Because now you know you're protected. So what are you going to do with that protection? Are you going to still live in fear? Are you going to go out there and complete your mission? Because I believe that's exactly what the psalm is talking about. Like, yes, you found refuge in the Lord. You trust the Lord. Now you have a shield and a sword to go in battle. He's not saying stay there. He's saying, well, yeah, you're going to be confronted with arrows coming at you, but nothing's going to touch you because you're protected. So I believe the message is a lot about empowerment. Okay, you put your faith in me. Now take action with that faith. What are you going to do? You already praised me. You're under my wings. Now, with that power, how are you going to empower yourself to go through the difficult times in life? It's such a beautiful poem because it's just like it's so detail oriented about like safety, empowerment, action.
Kind of reminds you. like kind of like parenthood in a way too. It's like you can't keep like the house is a refugee in a sense, but you can't keep your kids in the house forever.
Yeah.
So God is like in the beginnings, He will keep us in the house, but then He will provide us with that armor and sword, and then we will have to step out into the world then to do that empowering act because He is the protecting from that.
It's almost like he wants you to forge yourself because how good can you be if all you do is being strong in your house and not in every environment? So the exposure of the environment, different dangerous environment, is like how powerful can I be if I'm only powerful in one place?
Mhm.
Like, where is my true power? My true power is everywhere. When there's pestilence, where there's war, where there's bad moments. And I believe that's what I love about this song. It's talking about like go expose yourself. If you really believe in me, you have faith, you are protected by me. And I will protect you. But now what are you gonna do? You gotta walk in faith. You gotta walk knowing that I am your protector. My wings are not only in a refugee camp, they're everywhere you go. So I think it transcends from a safety network to go everywhere because I'm keeping you safe no matter where you go.
It's like when we were talking about with the white rooms and red zones. It's like, hey, we'll get to the white
Oh,
rooms, yeah, 100%, but come back to the red zones. You just
I
need to
love what you just said because it's also like a representation of Jesus. You know, the scribes and the Pharisees, they were only going in the temple places where they felt safe. But where was Jesus you know, talking about God in the red zone? In the places like it was considered not good, not healthy, not holy. But that's what this song is telling. I think it's such a beautiful song because if I was one of Jesus' disciple, I'm thinking about like Jesus is fulfilling this song to the T.
Mhm.
What do you think on?
I think it also teaches us how to have confidence in the Lord because again, right when we're going through trials, it's kind of like everything stops, it slows down, and there's only you and God. And it's I think of it as like there's clouds around you, you're in this desert, um, and everything's stripped away, and what's revealed is the contents of your heart. And yes, it's so easy to say like he overshadows us and he's with us, right? But then to live it and to remember, it's like he's like, I'm here, I'm with you, you're not alone. But we can't see him, but I like he's here because to be overshadowed, like when you're sitting in the sun and then the clouds come in front of it, that shadow it covers you, right? Like you're being protected. So to remember that when you're in the midst of a battle, it is hard. And I love this song too because it's like you can say this with all of your might, even when you don't feel it, because faith doesn't come from feelings. It comes from knowing the truth because emotions, like the tides of the ocean. It comes in and it comes out. Like emotions are the seasoning of life. But when that's taken away, you have the meat and potatoes, which is your like the faith and faith of knowing like my God is true and what he's faithful and what he says, like he sticks to his word. Um, and so I think about this psalm as like, when you pray it when you're in the midst of trial, right? You're there with him and his faithfulness is your shield. He overshadows you. He's like, I'm here with you. We're gonna get through this. And that pleases him so much when you can go forward and you have not an ounce of consolation. You're being met with desolation, and yet you still proclaim that he is good and he's God and he loves you. Like he's like, okay, like you're gonna get through it. To have confidence in the Lord, like I trust you, Lord. Like how often do we stop and say, like, you know what, Jesus, I trust you today. I trust that your word is true. Um, and just to like backtrack about all the prophets that we've been reading about so far, everybody like loses trust in him at some point, and he proves himself time and time again. And he doesn't have to. He's God, like he created everything, and yet something as simple as reassuring us. He does it time and time again.
Mhm.
And this is a song of reassurance, like reassurance of his promise, reassurance of his presence, because sometimes when we're going through something, it's easy to doubt his presence. And that's why I love that image. It just strikes me so much of being on the beach and the clouds. They come because he's there. Even if you feel like he's not, he's there with you.
Y- I want to piggyback on that because the last two books of Psalms, like the two big contents of Psalms, is about uh, if you read it, you notice that they're talking about to don't the people that are writing this are telling God, don't forget the promise you did to King David. Don't forget the promise to King David. And they refer to this because before that, it talks also about like how they never took really good action to be with God. They how they were bad, how they forgot God, like you were saying. But then it goes back into that, like the moment where they tell the Lord, like, your mercy, please have mercy. Remember what you promised to Abraham, what you promised to King David. And it's so beautiful because it stops being a lamentation to a proclamation of the promise. And God is true to his promise. So he can't lie. And so and I believe also they say this with the intention of hope, to hold on to something that is stronger than themselves in these times of tribulation. So it's interesting to see how these how all these hymns and poems go from lamentation to praising, but part of that praising has to do with also remembering God's promise, and the importance of that. What is God's promise? That's a good question.
Yeah, literally. That's a great question for there. And why would God forget it? Why would they keep saying remember it? Like that's our human form that goes through. It's like God, don't forget the promise. Like don't forget that
We
one.
think God is like us. We forget.
Yeah, right. I forgot that he's Almighty. He created the world, the ocean, the tides, all that. He does unexplainable things like he explained to Job.
Like God has a Google Meet. It's like, hold on, let me put this one on my agenda
Yeah,
before I forget.
yeah, literally.
It's funny.
Right? Uh, so, uh, we're up to the part where no lesson, no play raps new. Though 1,000 fall at your side, 10,000 at the right hand near you, it shall not come. You need simple watch. The punishment of the wicked you will see, because you have the Lord for your refuge.
That statement is so powerful.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the reason being, it's like I love. It's almost like he's reminding us that vengeance is his. Like like the wicked will get what they deserve, not from your hand, from God itself. So you don't even have to worry about. And I think it happens a lot with a lot of people that don't understand um, what is the responsibility of us handling fear, sadness, anger, jealousy. What we're supposed to do is not to take vengeance onto somebody else. And this states it so beautifully. It's like nothing is going to happen to you because I'm protecting you, but also what we're supposed to do is not to take vengeance onto somebody else. And this makes it so beautiful. It's like nothing is going to happen to you because I'm protecting you, but also don't forget that vengeance is mine. I will deal with the wicked. You don't deal with the wicked. Don't suffer for if they're getting punishment or not. I am the one that has to dictate when that is fair. Because again, his mercy, we don't understand. Sometimes we think, why do bad people don't get punished so often? No, we need to understand. You read Psalms, he's coming after us again and again, showing us mercy and infinite love. He gives you so many opportunities before he disciplines you.
Oh my gosh, so many. As you're talking, I'm thinking about Barabbas. He's the perfect example of somebody who's very vengeful, and he took God's justice into his own hands. In the crowd, they wanted him free, and He was a murderer. He was murdering people in the name
Revolutionary.
of God. But what's interesting is his name, right? Because Abba means father. And I forgot what bar means. I don't know if it meant like against God or away from God. And the crowd wanted him, and it was almost like them declaring like we don't want the father right now. And I think like it's always good to do an internal check because I think when
Means son of the father.
Barabbas,
Yeah, that's what it says.
really,
Yeah. Barabbas is a name that literally means son of the father. He was a notorious criminal.
yeah. I was reading somewhere where they like broke down like, his name. But I think when we get angry or we don't trust, it's like we stop listening and we totally tune out against God. And it's a good reminder that He's like, I will handle, I will handle like all of your injustices at the end of time. Like I am, He is just, like He's a just God. And sometimes when we feel like we've been slighted or I'm like, are you watching any of this? And He's like, yes, but that's not for you to handle. Like that's for me to handle. It's a good reminder, like because Barabbas is somebody who was doing that, who was getting his, you know, everything righted, but he was doing it in the wrong way. So it's a good reminder.
But also look at Jesus' love because he never said a word. He was even in the process of his own pain, he was protecting the criminal, Barabbas, which is interesting because it shows that we don't understand God's level of mercy. We just don't understand it. When we like, how many times do you watch a movie when they're judging Jesus and he hasn't, and even Pontius Pilate says he hasn't done any wrong, but you still condemn him. And then you have somebody like Barabbas that is a criminal, notorious, and Jesus says no word. He stays quiet, protecting, and maybe that's why his name means the son of the father.
Yeah.
It's like like I'm protecting my children, even if they're bad. I'm giving them infinite love, and I just what
Yeah.
you were saying, like kind of
Yeah.
impacted me.
No, I'm sorry. I'm gonna correct myself. You're right. His name did mean son of the father, and they didn't choose the son of the father. They chose somebody who wasn't the son of the father.
Exactly.
That's what it was. Sorry. Yeah, yeah.
It's like ironic.
Because they were together, and
Hmm.
Pilate was like, "You get to choose like which prisoner you want free," and they chose. They didn't choose the son
Yeah.
of the father. They chose Barabbas to go
Hmm.
free.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And Pontius Pilate just believes that he washing his hand, he had no responsibility.
We're not making a choice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the hard part.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You already know how I feel about when leaders don't make a choice, they think they're not making one.
You gotta make a choice. Make a
Mhm.
choice somewhere.
Mm.
Mm. So, no evil shall befall you, no affliction come near your tent. For he commands his angels with regard to you,
Mm.
a guard to guard you wherever you go.
Wow, that's also strong. Like,
Yeah,
let me
right.
ask
That's
you,
a
Kevin, have you ever felt like vulnerable to the point where you were so scared? What took you away from being afraid of that vulnerability?
uh, when I get when I feel vulnerable, and it's funny because sometimes I arrive on instinct. Like it's it's in a place where it's like, what my it's kind of reactive in a sense. Like if I'm like in a vulnerable, it's kind of like more like I don't. It's in a place either I don't know, I don't really know too much about it. I don't like. It's scary to play, so I had to be fully present in the moment. Like my hearing will go, everything gets a little bit more heightened, and then my body kind of like my mind shuts down and it goes silent, and then it starts like being in. So in the vulnerability, I let my body do its thing. I don't try to overthink or anything like that. Um, just because I know I just got to get through, even if it feels like 10, even if a minute feels like 10 hours, it's like, okay, I still got to get through.
Do you ever picture like because this statement because it's a statement, it's
Mhm.
not. He's talking about like when you feel vulnerable and he knows you're scared. You know that like Psalm 23 says, even if I go through the valley of the death, that piece of that sentence is so powerful because we don't acknowledge that even when we're based on instincts and we are fearful, we just don't understand the kind of protection we're getting. We just can't see it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy. Think about if you were able in those moments of vulnerability, you're walking and you're afraid, and you look up to the sky and you were able to see like a whole army of angels saying like just ready to protect you.
Yeah, right.
What will you think? What will you how will you be scared?
I will, I try to envision that sometimes. Like I try to be like, oh, the wind is here. Like if I missed like a left, if I was supposed to make a right, it's like, oh crap. Like maybe that was the angels
Yeah.
that was around, right? That was protecting from
Or the
that scene.
redirecting.
Yeah, redirecting, right? And it's like it's scary. It's scary but beautiful at the same time. The spiritual world is like it's alive. The spiritual world is alive. They're here around everywhere. They are protecting us. It's just like
We just can't see
yeah, we just can't see it, nor will we really fully understand it. It could be like in such little things, like the very little like we know how if we take this action, a branch of reality goes this way. We take this action, a branch of reality goes this way. So they know the branches of reality that we may not know of. For
it.
example, like that left and the right, like they might be redirecting a
Mhm.
place even just to keep you protected. Um, so, and it kind of reminds me too, it kind of makes me think like the ability of like control as well. How much do we really think we have control in? And from that, what is those pieces where it's like we think it's the control, but it's really like might be those angels that are interceding.
I'll bounce this to Autumn, but I got a pretty good point of view on that. I believe that sometimes we ask God for things that we don't acknowledge we ask. Like in moments of danger, it's like, please save us. We just don't acknowledge we're saying that, oh, I'm scared. And it's not like we're like they're coming, the angels are coming to interfere. You're asking unconsciously sometimes for help. And perhaps God is such a good listener that he's sending what you're asking for, because it says in the Bible, ask and you shall receive, I love what you said because are they redirecting us? Probably we ask for the redirection. God, what should I do? Have you ever had those moments like where you're like, I don't know what to do?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and he goes through like another direction. He like pulls you
It's like, oh, you don't know what to do? Don't worry, I got you. I'll send something or a little something so you can kind of like take the right route. What are your thoughts, Autumn?
I think this is why obedience and discernment are so important because I think all of the small yeses lead up to a big yes, and all of the small no's lead up to a bigger no. And, especially with the verse that you're reading about the angels, the early Christians are such an example of their hope in the Lord because all of them were killed for their faith. And it's like, I just listened to a story yesterday that I was sitting there and I'm like, wow. And this woman, this girl, um, she was a girl and she was Christian. And I think her dad was a judge in the Roman times. And, she was captured for being Christian and they gave her a little bit of time because they were trying to get the dad to convince her to like give up the faith. And she was like, I'm not giving it up. And so they threw her into like an arena and they set a boar at her. And he like rammed into her and she like flew in the air and her hair came undone. And then she yelled at the boar, stop. And then she went to get her hairpin, picked her hair back up, and then she said, come. And he killed her. And I just like even right now, I get such a holy like silence over it because it's like to not to not be in hysterics, right? Most of those Christians, they all greeted death with a smile because of this. They knew that the angels were waiting for them. They knew like the kingdom of heaven was open to them. And yet they died like such horrific deaths. And I say to myself, you wouldn't consider, at least for me, you wouldn't consider martyrdom to be a gift. It's almost scary. Like to die for your faith, it's scary, but yet it's an honor, right? Jesus says there's no greater love than this, than to lay down your life for a friend. Um,
Hmm.
and yet these martyrs, they laid down their life back for Jesus. Like he was calling them to face martyrdom, and they gave it freely. And I think of that, and I'm like, how do you get to the point of giving your life in that big way? And there's two different there's white martyrdom and then there's red martyrdom. We all live white martyrdoms every single day where we are called to sacrifice our wants or give our small yeses and our small no's, because if he ever calls us to a red martyrdom, how are we gonna give a yes freely, right? Like there's a great scene in that movie, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it. But basically, just to summarize, there's a character who continues to deny Jesus because of in fear of persecution, and he's like, he'll spit on Jesus' image and then run to the priest for confession, and then it journeys through the priest's humanity because he's like, you're coming to me again for confession, and you keep denying Jesus, and yet all of these other priests are being killed for their faith. And I love that scene because that's an example of what happens when you don't deny yourself sometimes or you don't prepare yourself. If Jesus were to ever ask you for a bigger yes, we don't know, but I love this verse because it reminds me like the kingdom of heaven is real and Jesus is waiting for us. Martyrdom always like sticks out to me because it's so, will you die for your faith? You know, I think about our fellow brothers and sisters right now who are being persecuted in Syria and in the Middle East, and it's like they're dying for their faith right now. They're going to church to worship, and they all just were beheaded in church. Like,
You know, I
you know,
sometimes I think sometimes martyrdoms are hard too, because it's like, what can you
yeah,
do when you're in the grave
Mm.
for your faith? It's
Yeah.
like you can die for your faith, but then that's when the story doesn't end there. I mean, it leaves an example, but at the same time, it's like, what can you do to help your faith? And then God also forgives those, like our God's a forgiving God. So like for the one that kept going back to confession, like it's kind of like Nicodemus, right? Back into it, like instead of going on the path with God, for example, the martyrdom path, uh, you might be spreading the faith in a different way, in a sense. Um,
well, yeah, there's no sin too great that God can't cover.
Forgive.
I think it's just like I'm talking about like something personally, like how do you endure? How do you face martyrdom? It's this. It's like remembering that heaven is real because yeah, like those deaths were,
I think
you know,
I'm with both of you because it's hard to look at the bigger picture because you don't know what heaven looks like. So there's no image about that. And also Jesus says, I can't speak about that because you don't even believe me. I'm here, I'm doing all these miracles and I'm talking to you about the earthly things and you still don't believe me. So that's why he was like, and I think it was such a smart way of like saying, why would I even go there? You can't even understand these simple concepts. And I do I love what you said about like dying for your faith. Most people die for their vanities.
mm,
That is what's scary. The devil does not have to make you stop believing in God.
wow,
All he
that's
has to
strong.
do is not make you believe in him. How? Vanities, different concepts. His job is so easy. God's job is so hard. You have to believe on something you can't see. You can't even imagine. What does the devil do? Tangible, touchable, palpable thing. So this is such a strong verse because it almost like talks about like, yes, you're protected by something so invisible that you can't see, that you need to have faith on something you can't see, but yet you know it exists, just like the wind. You know it exists. You know it's there. You know it comes and goes. It has no shape or form. It doesn't tell you where it's going to end or where it's going to start. But yet we always choose the tangible, palpable thing. And I think that's where like you're saying, when you die for your faith, you're thinking about heaven. When you choose vanity, you don't want to die by your faith because you want to hold on to your vanity, to the material things that you perhaps feel like you still haven't fulfilled.
Yeah.
It's also scary. Like that's why I bring it up because like that verse for me gives me a lot of comfort. 'Cause I'm like that's scary. Like we have so many freedoms in America right now. Like I can go to church and just worship and that's why it like struck me. Like they went to a church in the Congo and they all were killed and I'm like, like thank God we have religious freedom here and at the same time like it just makes me reflect and I'm like thank you Jesus like for our faith and yet like I don't know, it just made me like contemplate it. It's really beautiful, but it makes it like puts things into perspective for me of like would I give it freely? Would I accept the gift that you had for me or would I run away? It just makes me like just contemplate.
Reflect on it. What do you think, Kevs? You want
Yeah.
to keep going, or you got something good cooking on,
Yeah.
as you normally do?
uh,
Oh yeah, you chose some too.
here, should we go to another song?
Yeah,
Should we keep going through? Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Because I was gonna. Yeah, let's go to another song. Let's go to another song.
All right. This was
This is a good
yeah,
one.
this is powerful. This psalm, I could tell you from my own testimony that in my biggest tribulation, this was, you don't know how many times this made me tear up
Mm.
because when I felt vulnerable and I felt like that there was no solution, that I was done, this recomforted my heart. And it brought tears, not of sadness. It brought tears because I felt loved by God in that moment. Like that was speaking, whispering in my, not in my ears, in my heart. And it elevated me to be courageous. Like, hey, don't forget, like, you have a whole army. Like, what, like, and it's okay to be fearful, but
Yeah.
like, start trusting more. That's kind of like what this thing was telling me. This piece of song was telling me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Love that. So, Psalm 91 was great. That was a great one. Oh, look up Psalm 91,
Yeah,
guys.
Psalm 91, guys.
All right, so I'm gonna go into Psalm 10. So I have like three different kind of psalms. Like one is
Go ahead.
lamenting, one is praising, and I think another one's kind of like a mixture. So Psalms, I'm gonna start with 10, 8, 15.
Let's go.
Why, Lord, do you stand afar and pay no heed in times of trouble? Arrogant scoundrels pursue the poor; they trap them by their cunning schemes. The wicked even boast of their greed; these robbers curse and scorn the Lord. In their insolence the wicked boast, God does not care, there is no God. Yet their affairs always succeed. They ignore your judgment on high. They sneer at all who oppose them. They will say in their hearts, we will never fall. Never will we see misfortune. Their mouths are full of oaths, violence, and lies, discord and evil under their tongues. They wait in ambush near towns. Their eyes watch for helpless to murder the innocent in secret. They lurk in ambush like lions in a thicket, hide there to trap the poor, snare them and close the net. The helpless are crushed, laid low. They fall into the power of the wicked, who say in their hearts, God has forgotten, shows no concern, never bothers to look. Rise up, Lord God, lift up your hand. Do not forget the poor. Why should the wicked scorn God, says in their hearts. God does not care, but you do see. You take note of misery and sorrow. You take the matter in hand. To the helpless can entrust their cause. You are the defender of orphans. Break the arm of the wicked and depraved. Make them account for their crimes. Let none of them survive. The Lord is king forever. The nations have vanished from his land. You listen, Lord, to the needs of the poor. You strengthen their hearts and incline your ear. You win justice for the orphan and oppressed. No one on earth will cause terror again.
That's a good one.
That is a really good
That's a really good one. Who wants to start that battle?
one.
All right, that's a hard,
Why did it strike you?
Oh, that's a good question.
right when you're like,
Where you want me to start, bro?
Right?
It's either that or banana pudding, bro.
No, but then I
You
put
pick.
it. I'll plead the fifth now. So I think the way they struck me was sometimes you like there's a feeling that like the Lord has forgotten, like with Joseph being thrown into jail, like like the lamenting on that Lord, why have you forgotten, or even being thrown into pit, like from pit to jail to that. Like you may not think the God is really there. You may think like God has forgotten you to put me through so many hard things. Why would He be there for the next? Right?
Mhm.
It's like God, you've forgotten. And the wicked are gonna keep doing their things. The wicked are just gonna keep striving and doing the wicked stuff. They're gonna take the orphans. They're gonna kill the innocents. They're gonna do a whole bunch of things, and they keep doing it. So God, why have you? Why is this still going on? Why is this still happening? Um, and in my life, I feel like when I was put into a place like in somewhere like that, it's like, God, why have you forgotten it? But then it's like I gotta keep moving forward no matter what. Even if He has, right? But what He never has. But in our human form, it's like in the hardships, it's like, why is our hardships happening? I mean, like God didn't say life was going to be easy. The path is going to be a smooth, laid out path. It's not going to have bumps, rocks, or hills. Um, so even with the wickedness going through, God will even he would even he would do back to them. He wouldn't he he would say He protects it. Like with the first song we are talking
Yeah.
about, the 91, He'll do the protection. He might have us go through the hard times in the beginning, but maybe that's just to strengthen us, forge us like a fire. In a sense, like steel, you can't make steel without being in that fire first, red hot, and then you get pulled down and cooled into the water, and then that's when you're like a sword. Like that's when your sword gets really ready
I like
for.
that. I like that comparison. How you forge a sword. It starts red hot,
Yeah.
and then it gets into something that is more durable. Um, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I like that image you
Yeah,
just gave too,
me
because then
too.
they have to hammer it too,
Yeah,
and like
hammer it.
the sparks are flying. Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah, that was a great analogy, to be honest.
I love the part where in verse 4 to 6, in their insolence, the wicked boast, God does not care, there is no God.
Mm.
I feel like I've prayed this to God, like evil people. It's like they just like doors keep opening for them, and it's like, and yet I'm going through like the thorn bushes, and it keeps getting narrower and narrower, and I can't move, and I'm like, what? But it's such a beautiful reminder. There's a beautiful, so there's a saint. Her name's Saint Faustina, and she had a dream where God showed her two paths, and one of the paths was really wide, and the path was strewn with rose petals, and people were singing and dancing. And then at the end of the path, it fell into a pit, and it was all fire. And the other path was really narrow, and there were thorns, and people were walking through it, and they were suffering. And then at the end of it was like glory. And that's a good reminder because it's like, even though the evil, like the wicked are, it seems like they're getting everything they want now, their soul is like gonna face an eternal damnation. It's so sad to think about, because if you're in the devil's grasp, he doesn't bother you anymore. You're not on the field, so he's like, I don't have to worry about them. I already have them. So it's like everything seems easy, but their soul's in jeopardy. Versus like if you're striving for holiness and you're striving to come to God, you're like a main basketball player in the field. He's like, I gotta get after this guy.
Hmm.
It's just a good reminder to like keep up the good fight. Because like God is like sometimes you have to do hard things for God, and like it's okay.
And this is also a great reminder of who do you expect your rewards to come from? Because it details like he's lamenting to the Lord, saying the wicked is getting getting through all these and getting rewarded, even though they're talking bad about you. They're saying that you're not the God that you're supposed to be. But you know, understanding. what I understand from this psalm is that it's like this person is going to get the reward from the Lord, as the others are going to get the reward from the evildoer. And there's a big difference. Yes, you're getting all the rewards and easy rewards without even doing any sacrifice. What happens when you get and you earn and you get a gift or you get a reward without any sacrifice or earn?
Praise it as much as you did beforehand. You don't value it's the value of it is not as strong as when you put in the work, the sacrifice, things like that. Like if you sacrifice the goat to one of the things, it's like, dang, now I got no more milk or goat milk stuff like that. But you let the sacrifices there, and it's like, but now this whole thing from it. Even though they stopped sacrificing goats, I think that was like a hard. Maybe I should bring it back into the modern age. Like, what's the sacrifice of today? Sacrifice today sometimes sometimes in if you're trying to succeed in something long term in your youth, sometimes you sacrifice the going out, the partying, the etc. etc.
Your time,
Yeah, yeah, and you put that into your future, and you reap the rewards, and then you're like, oh, that feels great. But then sometimes it takes a little longer on the back end when you do if you didn't sacrifice in the beginning, because then you guys start it's a the catch up game then after. Um, but again, you reap the rewards that you sacrifice. Sometimes the wicked rewards come in faster, and the wicked rewards aren't good. And
Are they reward or prizes? Because those are exactly. It's almost like the devil gives, like he gives you gifts, making you think that you earned it, that you are rewarded by making a sacrifice, like you were saying. But it's just a gift to keep you. It's almost like a bait.
yeah, keep you going
And
into
keep you
it.
going into it. And if you notice, in a lot of the biblical scripture talks about like how people that were wicked eventually find no value in the things they get from the devil. They
Hmm.
get devaluated because you think about it, if every day somebody came with a suitcase of $1 million, at the beginning you'll be stimulated. You'll be like, oh my God, that's so much fun. Imagine if that happened every hour without you doing anything. At some point, that $1 million that comes after and after and after, you build like $1 trillion. How valuable would that be for you? If you receive it without no effort.
Yeah.
And what are the fruits of that? Like you look at people who, or even I'll speak from example. If when I wasn't following like the ways of the Lord, right? What are the fruits that He gives you? Self-doubt, despair, anxiety, all these like bad thoughts that we tell ourselves, no peace. I just read the other day, the gift of trust is a tranquil soul. And it made me really like reflect. And I'm like, how beautiful is that? When we trust in God, He gives us the gift of trust, and that trust gives us peace in our soul. Um, that's actually another psalm, I think, but it's like, or is it a proverb where like the river, like it reflects. Never
The
mind.
image,
I
the image.
totally forgot.
No, that's
Never mind.
okay. Oh,
I see it in my head. But like, what are the fruits that you're in right now? Are you trusting? Um, is your heart filled with peace? And if you don't have peace, that right away is an indicator that like there's something going on that you need to evaluate. And then as you both are talking, I'm just thinking about this question too, like what reward do we want? What's the reward? Like we have to define reward. What are we craving and looking for? And sometimes the reward we want isn't the reward that God wants us to have. It's very interesting.
Because we probably don't know how to handle it too. You know, so I do see that when God rewards you, He rewards you with something you're able to also handle. And I believe sometimes we all we all want $1 million, but what would that do to you? How would it define you? Do you know the value of how to handle it? And I believe that that is also what this psalm is telling us a lot. It's like the reward that comes to the Lord is gonna not be so overwhelming that it's gonna take out everything out of you. You know, the wicked, they did it to themselves. So they're dealing with not with God, they're dealing with the ones that gave them the bait, and he will destroy them. Like they go into their own destruction. This is why I believe we don't have to ask for revenge, because those that are not with God already seek their revenge for themselves with being with the devil. That is already the punishment. This is why, like, Jesus says this so beautifully. Someone he says to his disciples, like, why are you looking at the other person's sins? Like,
The
yeah,
thing in the wood in their eye.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
wood in
wooden
their eye.
exactly. Like, why you focus there? Focus here, your salvation, because you need to be holy. That person, you don't know if they made a deal already with the devil, if they already sold themselves to vanity. Like that's where you focus here. You and the relate. How can you help them if your relation with the Lord is not good? It's almost like it's almost like I guess one of you guys was saying, like when you're in an airplane, you got to put your oxygen mask first before you can put another mask on someone else. So this is why this is very impactful. Go ahead. I'm pretty sure we want to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, yeah, this is great. One of the one of the things that I like. I'm gonna go into here. When he says like, "Rise up, Lord God, lift up your hand. Do not forget the poor. Why should the wicked scorn God? Say in their hearts, God does not care, but you do see." Um, it's yeah, like what you were saying before. Like the wicked are gonna, they don't see it. They're in their own despise. They're gonna go down no matter where they go. And maybe God doesn't even have to like do anything for them just to take their own road down. I mean, His hand is gonna be there to help them, even if they need the help coming up. Like I think it's Paul. Like Paul when he used to persecute the
Yes,
Christians,
yes,
but
Paul.
God is there and He's there to help their hands up. Um, but one of the things that it reminds me of is, you remember the king that blinded the, we talked about this in one of the stories. I forgot which one it was, but I forgot which king is called. But he blinded them, and then, oh, the king of Babylon, the king of
Yes,
Babylon.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar. And then Nebuchadnezzar, his own group started falling down, and they got torn down from the inside because maybe God was with them, but they were doing sometimes wicked things, and from their wicked things that happened, inside tore down
Well,
themselves.
Daniel warned them too. Like he says to him, like, I wish this message was for your enemies. That's what he says. Like he starts with that statement. And it's so impactful because you're talking to a king. Think about that. Nebuchadnezzar was ruler of the earth because God gave him that authority. And he's saying, like, don't think that you're above him. Understand where your place is. That's all he had to do. But that's where the blessing in disguise was for Nebuchadnezzar, because he roamed around like a beast for 7 years. Talk about hardship, right? 7 years roaming in the wilderness. But this is the beautiful part. He was never touched by a wild animal. Think about that. Like the protection, even to somebody that was wicked. That's where I don't think we understand. We don't understand that kind of infinite love that God has for even those that are wicked. We don't get it. We this is such a beautiful point because he's talking about why haven't you punished them yet?
But if they're
What
too wicked, though, he kills them. Like he says, let none of them survive. Make them account for their crimes.
exactly?
Like he has to
I
pluck
could.
weeds, right,
It,
from the garden.
well, yeah, and it's a good thing because it talks about like they shouldn't be around us because they're dangerous. But it also talks about like think about today. And you go to work, and I'll just put the work environment. You go to work, you see people that don't have the best interest for the people that are in the lower position. This is a good example of that. You know, they're going to get more promotions. They're the ones that rise to the top. But what do they do for the poor? What is it they do? They forget about them. They don't do any good. Like people believe that my career, the vanity versus serving God, you know, the vanity is the justification of not focusing on helping those that need help. And that's where the devil has us really, it's so mind controlling on that aspect. No, it's my career. Yeah, your career, but what about your life? Isn't your life more important than your career? And that's where I love this song. It's beautiful because it touches on like how those above are abusing of those on on underneath, and they're not doing anything. And that's what he's proclaiming. He's like, Lord, why are you letting this happen? But this happens every day. Go to work and you'll see like the people that work on, for example, the people that work on a entry level job. Do you believe they're happy, or do you believe that they are being treated fairly, like somebody as a high executive is being treated? Do they get those amenities? They don't get them. They don't get the bonuses. They barely fight for a 30 cents raise. And the explanation is, oh, it's the industry that pays this. That's the whole point of this psalm. Is so beautifully put together. I love what you guys chose. You chose this, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really good one. I gotta
Yeah.
I know, right?
I gotta give it to you for that one. That's a really good choice.
Yeah, definitely. I like how you compared it to the work aspect too, the rankings, hierarchies, etc. It's like they don't look down for that guy, and like even the people that are in entry level positions, and they are stuck in the entry level positions because the leaders, not because they can't be leaders if they're stuck there. The managers are keeping them there, right? Because
Their
they're
vanity.
exactly, man. They can
But
profit off them
and-
without having to raise them.
exactly, but there you go. I got a question for you, Autumn. You look at this on a work environment, correct? And you're seeing that these individuals that are on these lower entry levels, and how do they lament? How should you lament to the Lord? And this is a blueprint thing. Lord, I have a boss that doesn't look at me, doesn't consider me, has preferences over people that, say are yay sayers to them. How do we really pray to God in the right way, or we're like, oh, I hate that manager, and I'm one day I'm gonna denounce him. It's like, what are your thoughts about that?
I think I was just having like a similar conversation with someone in my life who's going through something like this, and she they kind of gave her a job where like she's supposed to be a receptionist, right? But they kind of made her the errand girl, and she comes into work and they throw like all these errands at her, and she had like the majority of the day is driving, and it gets she was getting like overwhelmed with all the errands that they have to do, and then sometimes she'll do all the errands, come back, and they're like, oh wait, we need you to go out and do more, and then it's easy to see like how power is like given down. Like sometimes this person, her like supervisor, her job is to supervise, and yet the supervisor is throwing all her tasks onto her, and she's doing them, and then she's starting to get overwhelmed, and she's like, I don't understand why they're talking to me a certain way, and I'm doing all of my job, and we were talking about this, and I'm like, well, like they don't want to do their job, so they're giving you all of these tasks, but to do it humbly and to not be pushed into a direction to snap. Because I think, just to not really go off topic too much, but work is holy, right? And I feel like sometimes if you have people who give you like demeaning jobs, right, like throwing out the trash or doing all of these little jobs that you feel like, okay, I don't really want to do it. You can find holiness through it by accepting the job and doing it with love. No job is too small. That's what I like to think. So I'll do it. I'll do it with a smile too, because I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for God. Like He sees my posture of what I'm doing, right? You don't see the posture of my heart. He sees it. And
Mhm.
so to do it and understand, like, if I pick up a piece of trash, I'm helping a soul. If I do it with so much love, I'm helping a soul somewhere, you know? And so we were talking about this, her and I, and she was saying like she was really like radically loving because she felt so humiliated in the way that she's been being treated. And so you think about it, like people look at you as a tool to get a job done, and they forget like we're all here to do it together. You know, like I don't want to do the job, but I'm getting paid to be a supervisor, and yet I'm shirking my responsibilities onto you to do it. Um, what does your prayer look like? It looks like, Lord, help me to do this with love in my heart, depending on the person, right? Like where you are in life and what you want out of life. Because some people could be like, F you, I'm out of here. Like, this is ridiculous. But she was very, like, humble and she was sharing with me, like, what her prayer looked like and that she just wanted to, like, grow in love. But it's very tricky because I think you're there to do a job and people look at you like that. And I think that's where the breakdown of, like, human, like, love for each other has kind of, like, disappeared a little bit. But you hear these stories of people, and it's like, oh man, like I wish, like managers, you want to do a managerial role, and you're getting paid for it. Step up to the responsibility of that. Don't just like put it on somebody else who that's not what they're getting paid for, but they're doing it anyway. But
That's a that's a good one too, because it's like, yeah, like sometimes there are going to be jobs where it's like someone like throwing out the trash, like it's just for the betterment. It has to go outside anyway. It's like, you know what? Let me throw it out to help out everybody that's here. Let's refresh this trash can, which is very very true. And then
I like throwing out
yeah,
garbage, by the way.
and then and then in jobs you also have you have specialties. Everybody has a specialization for their certain stuff, and from that you have qualifications. You got to be qualified to do certain jobs. You have to be qualified. You have qualities, but for example, like sometimes if the supervisor isn't doing it for growth and just for being a manager and going like here you go, get all this. That's hard too because it's like, you know what, the tasks do have to get done. Like these are like a map to go forward. Um, it's just more like walk through the map. Sometimes that's what it is. It's like walking through the map and then going through the section, going through the states. Um, so it's hard, like you do get paid to do a job, but you can't forget that we are all human, right? Like we're all human. That I think, like, see, like, for example, like CEOs in big corporations, they will forget like that those entries are also human, and then they'll just start counting as a number.
You know what's sad when as we're going through this is like you see the repeated behavior through the whole Bible
Yeah.
from people that have an opportunity to do best for the poor and they choose not to because of their own vanities, their status. And it's sad because it's a common. I believe what the Bible, and especially in Psalms, it has a lot of lamentation about the injustice. That's why a lot of people in Psalms are talking about the injustice. Lord, why do you allow this injustice? Lord, why am I going through this trip? So there's two different types: the injustice and the personal trial. Those that are viewing, and this is beautiful because he's viewing. This guy is a viewer. He's a witness of the wrongdoings of an injustice and some sort of injustice. We don't know what it is, but we know that it's social status. So it's incredible to see like how now and even before they politically correct disguise it. Today, everyone disguises it. Every company talks about employee experience, but this is a reminder that we don't know what that means. What is a great experience? If that existed, then the song would be different. Oh Lord, thank you because you have made justice with these people on power with the poor, they treated the poor with dignity, and also think about the prayer. I once had a really hard circumstance with somebody, and I don't know where it came from because it wasn't common in me at that time, but I was able to ask God to make me not only understand but love that person. I would never understand if I didn't attempt to love that person. And it was so hard. But at the same time, it taught me that God is able to make you love even your enemy, even those that don't look at you fairly, that treat you in the wrong way. Because at the end of the day, like if I do that, like you're saying, I'm doing it for God and for myself. And if that person decides to reject the love that God is portraying through me, then he has to answer to God because I was just like trying to open the doors for him. So it's hard. It's not an easy thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely interesting
Now
one.
this one is a good one, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
You brought fire into this place.
It really did.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna be banned from picking anymore. Messing with
It's the Holy Spirit. Yeah, I flipped through the book.
I'm messing with you, Kevin.
It's those angels that choosing it through, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you guys want to stay on Psalms 10 for a little bit, or Psalms?
Did you want to? You have two more, right?
Yeah.
I do have two more. Okay. I know Psalms 10 was good. The status change. That's a good one.
It never change. It tells you that again and again and again. Even kings that have been chosen by God has fallen into the more into vanity. They like we all do. Like we're not exempt to it. And how often do we go back to the Bible to understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think something that really like irks me is
What grinds your gears?
what grinds my gears, really grinds them. And it's like something I work through in prayer, but like when people become so exclusive because they like status to some degree, and like I don't want to say like they leave people out, but like they form like
Their
a
circle?
circle, and it's like the inner circle, and they become like it just I don't know, it like grinds my gears because I'm like, why do you want people to feel left out? And sometimes you need an inner circle to like to help things function, right? Like we're in inner circle right now, right? We have to do behind the scenes stuff, and sometimes you guys are like a little inner circle, and you guys are like keeping the production team running, right? But some people, it's like they thrive off of that exclusivity and seclusion from others to make somebody feel like you don't belong here.
Hmm.
I don't. That really like gets to me because I'm like, number one, why do you want somebody to feel like that? Why do you want somebody to feel left out and abandoned or not seen? And or like if you're in a group chat and somebody texts and then everybody just ignores that person, and then somebody else texts and everybody starts writing. I
Yeah.
hate. Well, I don't want to use hate, but like I really like strongly dislike that. Like, you're purposely making somebody feel less than. Sorry, that was off topic, but
No,
like you
no,
know.
I do think it goes with the topic with the last song because it's talking about the disparity that people create in those circle status. And it's funny because like you create these circles to protect yourself from what? You can't like if you're creating a circle based on status, just like anything, status comes and goes. One day you're popular, another day you're not. You can ask that to a lot of Hollywood actors that once they were hot and then suddenly they warm up, they became cold or they aged and they can't get those roles that make them feel dignified in a time. So I believe it's also a reminder to understand like what are you protecting yourself? Or what are you trying to accomplish when you create these status circle? Like for what? What is the purpose?
Sometimes they're good, but sometimes they're bad. For
Right,
example,
right.
like for the ethic skills, soon we're gonna have a whole bunch of like watchers and viewers that'll be like, yeah, we're part of the guild because it creates some kind of like feeling like you're in a club, like you're in that group.
We should make
Well,
pins.
Yeah.
like him. Yeah,
Like in the
yeah.
80s, have those huge ones with Alpha on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mine's is,
I'm a little much.
I'm a 80s baby, so mine's gonna be like this big, like in Flavor Flav's clock.
Every clock shining and blinding
Yeah.
in the street.
Yeah, I think I'm not. You guys will be like, yeah, he's not in the inner circle right now.
No, never.
No, we keep things inclusive, even if you're
But
not being
but
good.
what you're saying is true. Like we're looking to include the forgotten. When we created the Ethics Guild podcast and the walk, we were thinking about how can we give back to the community. What is going to be our public? And I remember we were talking about, and we were like, we want to dignify people's stories. And who are those people? The Joe Schmoes, the regular people that are out there, those that the voice are not heard every day, that can't expose them. That's our target audience. We're not taking away the circle out those people that are famous, but if they do come to the Ethics Guild podcast or the walk, we want to know more about their humanity more than anything else.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to know, like, yeah, we know you did all these movies. Great. But let's talk about something more important. How was your life? What is life to you? What does that mean? What do you believe in? How do you go about it? What are your convictions? What are things? There are things that are more important than just the vanity of what you did. I think life itself is way more important.
Yeah.
And
You know what's funny about that? My coach this morning, he was talking about like how he trained with a whole bunch of different UFC fighters, and you have like these names that go up into like here, you have these big names that he trained with, and some of the students are getting like, oh, that's really cool, but then after a while, he's like, I forgot some of the names because like we're all just human. It's like how like we're training all together, but like we're human at the end of the day. Like there's no difference between him and somebody else. It's just
exactly.
he just got different like
And don't get me wrong, you can make a name for yourself, but you have a responsibility when you make a name for yourself.
yeah.
What are you putting to good use your name? What is it that you're using it for? Is it helping other people? Are you growing with them? Are you making them inclusive to be part? And don't get me wrong, there's going to be people that are going to reject themselves out of those groups because they choose to. But your door should always be open. And I believe that's what you were talking about the circles. Like when you create a circle where you think like, okay, you got to be hot to be here,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it happens a lot. I seen a lot of groups like there's not one ugly female in the group. I was like, why?
But even like if you're not interesting enough, or if you don't always have something to comment on, right? You're not the most talkative. To be slowly secluded from something because you're not always what they expect you to be. Like everybody is a different shade of the rainbow. Everybody is a different color. To look for the good in everybody, right? It's hard to do, but it takes like some listening, some seeking, some curiosity. And I think like for me, I get upset because I'm like, you'd rather push somebody to the side than to like sit and be interested. I don't know. I don't. It just rubs me the wrong way because I'm like, you have a lot of growing to do, or like Kevin always says, practice being uncomfortable. Like it's true. Practice being uncomfortable, even around people who you wouldn't prefer to be around, right? But they still want friendship. Like they still want to be included or seen. And that's what Jesus talks about with the forgotten sheep. Like
Mm.
9 times out of 10, the more you make somebody feel secluded or isolated, that's where like the devil's waiting because he's the king of isolation. So he's like, oh yeah, make him feel more isolated. They'll come to me.
Mm.
We have a communal God. He's a Trinitarian God. So he's three persons. Like he's in communion all the time. He wants us to be in communion. And
Mhm.
sometimes I think about that, like people who, and I'm not shaming anybody. I just think like it's something that we all should work on. But like some people thrive off of making people feel like crap and pushing them to the side. Maybe they don't even know they're doing it. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But what does it take for us to seek out that lost sheep of like, let me just hear about your day to day, even if it's hard.
Some
Mhm.
people also get shy. You know, like there's also the shy ones that are like they might.
Yeah, I'm shy, right? I'm talking about
Yeah.
people who like their natural capability is to be outgoing. And sometimes it's them who like seclude. And I'm not saying they do it on purpose,
Yeah.
but it's just
Yeah, it's interesting because also you got to think about like and you see this like I take the workplace a lot as an example because this is where you see real greed and how they like people form groups and those groups are the always ones getting promoted and because they like each other, they communicate, so they expand. And as they
Right.
expand,
That's a good
they create their own groups, segregate more people, and that's the domino effect about the segregation part that is so cancerous and dangerous. And even in the Bible, the psalm that you just hit before, it talks about that. If they form groups, those groups expand. They what they do, they know how to do is segregate people, pick those that they like, also those that are going to be favorable for them and then and they're contagious like a virus and that last psalm is talking about that. It's like, Lord, why are you allowing this? Why? I see it and it's venomous and it's contagious and it's bad and it's making us feel like we don't belong there. That's the lamentation that I hear, and you chose such a good song.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still talking about it. Go ahead.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Go
ahead, go ahead.
I'm
sorry. No, that's a good one. That's a good one. All right, so you know what? We're gonna hop into Psalms 15.
Let's
Psalms
go.
10 is a great one. Psalms 15 is also really great, and then Psalms number 8 is gonna be also it's the bird that sings. So the righteous Israelite, a psalm of David.
Ooh.
Lord, who may abide in your tent, who may dwell on your holy mountain. Whoever walks without blame, doing what is right, speaking truth from the heart, who does not slander with his tongue and does not harm to a friend,
Mm.
never defames a neighbor, who disdains the wicked, but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath despite the cost, lends no money at interest, accepts no bribe against the innocent.
Mm.
Whoever acts like this shall never be shaken.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right.
Short and sweet and straight to the point. King David throwing some rhymes. You think Biggie and Tupac were good? David speaking a lot of
It's truth. It's pretty good. It kind of like shows us like it is the righteous, right? Like whoever walks without blame, doing what is right. I'm gonna try
that's
to
strong
go
right
through
there.
each one.
Break it down.
Yeah.
That is strong. The first two lines,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a
Right.
slap in the face.
It talks. I think that one talks a lot about accountability.
Yes.
Because accountability is one of those big ones. A lot of people, instead of being accountable, they're like, "Oh no, I couldn't do it because of
Of you.
yeah, yeah." Instead of being like, "Oh, I couldn't do it because of myself." This is where I messed up. This is where I can improve with. It's more like, oh, I couldn't do it because this person did this. This job is holding me back in this. This thing is holding me back in this. But it's like, no, no, no. Don't blame. Don't blame nothing. It's like, for example, if you let's go to let's go to now. If I couldn't get the meat for today, but it's like, wait, you could have got the meat. You just take it in, right?
Mhm.
That was a bad example.
No, but if you didn't work for it, why would you get it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, literally like that. It's about taking the whoever walks without blame, doing what is right.
That's a strong. I'll leave.
That's not a bad example. That's a good
Yeah,
example.
that's a good
Right.
example. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good example. I liked it. What do you think, Anna? That's a powerful two lines.
I
Mhm.
think I I don't know. I can't get past the second one. I like that he's asking questions. I think that's the language of God. He asks us questions. Who may dwell on your holy mountain? Something that I really love from the New Testament is every time that Jesus goes to pray, he goes up to the mountain and he takes time away from preaching and he'll go recharge and pray and have like contemplation time with the Father, and he always goes up the mountain. That's something that really draws my attention.
And Moses too. Remember when we talked about Moses going up the mountain?
Exactly.
The mountain's like a holy place. You touch the mountain if you're not, if you haven't gone through your thing, you die if you touch the mountain.
That's what I was just gonna say. So he's saying, "Who may dwell on your holy mountain?" I'm like, I want to dwell on your holy mountain. And then it's like, for me, I'm kind of thinking of it's like prayer. Like, do you go up the mount when you're confused or you don't know where to go or you feel alone? Do you go take up time on the mountain?
I think David's explaining. I think David's in the second part is explaining to us the standard for going to the for being on the mountain. Like he makes us like question in the beginning to make us think like, what is the holy mountain? But in the second part, he talks about like this is how the person behaves to go into the mountain. And in the third part, he says he literally he confirms it. He says, whoever acts like this shall never be shaken. Like saying that they're grounded, fortified, like a tree with its roots dug deep. Yeah. The wind can't shake it down, but a tree with its roots that are like at the surface, that are dug deep, once the wind comes, it comes right down. So like
that's a great example because that root is your faith. Your faith is what sustains you, and David hits it on the nail. If you can't behave in that way if you don't trust God, if you don't have the faith, and faith doesn't mean that. Uh, Again, we are human beings. We are going to doubt, but if you go back into the faith, that's what is the merit. That's why the first question is that whoever walks without blame, doing what is right, speaking truth from the heart. How many of us does that every single day, all day? We don't.
yeah.
So David is so smart when he asks the question because he knows he's not worthy. But what is worthy? That is the question. What is worthy to go to that mountain? Is your faith in the Lord, no matter how many times you don't do that, you don't behave according to God, but you're going back to the Lord. David was, I think this is why David was said to have the heart of God. He understood the power for forgiveness. He knew God's mercy. That's what it is. David understood God's mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And he held himself accountable. Although I never forget when the prophet Nathan goes to David and gives him that analogy of of like, what should we do with this person that has killed his friend? And he said he should be executed. And then the prophet Nathan tells him, that's you. And he's like, he takes accountability right away. He says to the prophet Nathan, he said, I should be spared. I'm sorry, I should be killed. I should not live anymore. He knew that that was the right punishment for what the prophet Nathan says. Like, God loves you, but your punishment is going to come through your family lineage, not through you. But David is such a great poet.
That's totally my fault. That kind of sucks too.
But that's the thing, right? Like I don't know, but that question was so powerful to me. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And how you were explaining it was like fire.
Wait, how one said.
Thank you.
All right. So I love that you were just saying that he starts off with the question and then gives the standard of how to go up the Holy Mountain. So guys, I've been praying about what should we do for our next episode, and this just confirmed it.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, no, seriously, especially because the light bulb just went off when you said that exact like phrase, the standard for how to go up the mountain. We're gonna read about the Beatitudes.
Woo! Oh.
Because it literally mirrors it, and like I've been praying about what we should read next, and you just I don't know, like the light bulb went off, and I'm like, this is the Beatitudes. Like I didn't even think about that when Jesus is giving the Beatitudes. This is like a good reference point, but I won't say we'll dive into it, but the Beatitudes, like, it goes hand in hand. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think David had always a good attitude. That's one of the things that define David as a man that feared God. I could just imagine being, you know, persecuted by like a king for 40 years. That must be tough. You're hiding, you're afraid. When you
Eyes around.
there's like exactly like you're living in the wilderness, you're uncomfortable. You can't have a minute of sleep. You're constantly thinking, when would this be over? And then he writes this faith. Like he's talking about, like, am I worthy? You know, this is such a good one. What impacted you from this whole writing?
Oh,
Because
oh.
it's so short, but it's so powerful.
Yeah, all right. Okay, I wanna go into the third one.
Go ahead.
So, who does not slander with his tongue, does no harm to a friend, never defames a neighbor.
Mm.
For me, that one. So the first, for number two, it talks about accountability.
Mhm.
Number three, it talks about gossip.
Mhm.
Yeah, like gossip can do so much. It could create a bubble around somebody that doesn't need a bubble around them,
That's a
right?
good point.
It could do something to that person that might be doing the right thing, but in somebody's perspective, then the gossip it creates a perception of that person to another person that gives them a view of who they are without even getting to discover who
Mhm.
they are. Um, so right in the beginning, you're giving that. You're, if you slander with the tongue, your tongue becomes like kind of like evil, becomes kind of like a whip to the person, and does no harm to a friend because you don't want to harm a friend, right? Like that's your friend, that's your buddy.
I wonder if he wrote this after he killed his friend
Mm.
Mm.
and he's repenting.
Oh, that might be a way. That might be his. That might be one of his reflections
A
onto it.
reflection of accountability. It makes kind of sense.
And he's like, oh dang, maybe he doesn't recognize that
Oh,
he is
that's
righteous, and he's like, what makes a righteous thing? Maybe this is
exactly.
a question. This is his
Yeah.
own answers to the question he has of righteousness. What
Oh
is a
man,
righteous
this
Israelite?
opened up a can of worm.
I
What do you think, Autumn? Do you think he wrote this after that incident?
I don't know. I don't know because he's talking about like right like the tongue, and I think like it is like you can kill somebody with the words that you say without even realizing it or out of what is that like I'm forgetting the word, but it's like an itch, like where like you fall into it of like, oh, like you can't, like you have an opinion about something and you can't restrain it.
Mhm.
And then and this does happen a lot with women. I feel like a lot of women fall into the gossip, or what's really harmful too is like when people disguise it as a prayer. So instead of saying like, let's guys, let's keep Sally in our prayers, it's like, let's pray for Sally who's going through a divorce at this time, and they kind of like unravel too many details. Such a good reminder because like when you harm somebody's reputation, it's hard to like put it back into like a clean picture. Um, and you're right, like you said, it's like a whip. Like
Mhm.
it's like you're whipping somebody. Because sometimes right we have our name, and that's like what we carry with us. But when somebody like slanders it, like that happens in high school a lot. I feel like where like a lot of kids they go through that where like rumors about you go around the school, or and that really can harm a kid. So it's just good to be mindful. Like don't gossip. If you have anything nice to say, don't say it at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
yeah. Let's go to number four.
Mhm.
Who disdains the wicked, but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath despite the cost. So one of those things is like who disdains the wicked. Like you gotta it's like a throw up to the wicked. Like we don't like wickedness. It's and
They vomit out the wicked.
yeah, right. I'm not gonna make it like Jesus with the lukewarm. We gotta get the hot cold
Yeah.
and vomit it out. But honest those who fear the Lord, and those who fear the Lord are kind of like the brothers and sisters. You know the battle, the fight, the spiritual warfare, the things that go on. So You go through. And who keeps an oath despite the cost, holding to your word. And that's the one of the things. You gotta hold to the word. It's if you say something, do it. It's kind of like the yeah. You gotta just keep the word. It builds your own. It builds the integrity of the person
Mhm.
stuff too, right? If you say something, do it, despite the cost of it. So even if it takes $1 million, do it anyway. Even if it takes 1 million hours, do it anyway, right? Because you said you're keeping your oath, despite of what it is, right? That's like that's like when we will go out work, and they will ask us to do something, and then if we say yeah we'll do it, but then it never gets
Mhm.
done, then how is it? You didn't despite the cost. The
Yeah,
cost. They took in the cost as like, oh, this is the cost of it. Like, no, like despite it. Throw the cost out the way, just do it anyway.
I love that phrase.
Mhm.
I'll let Autumn kick in on this one. I'll go last.
Who keeps an oath despite the cost? Um, it
Despite the
makes
cost, that's a strong.
it makes me think of Jesus,
Hmm.
and then like in the agony of the garden. That's where like his humanity, like felt the weight of what was gonna happen. Like in his divinity, he sees what's gonna happen, and yet his humanity felt the like anxiety of it, and so he knew what the cost was going to be, and but he saw like the physical cost, which was the suffering, and then he saw the ultimate cost, which was our souls would be free, and he did it, and he walked forward. So it kind of gives me hope that when I have to do something hard, the cost, it's costly, it costs you something. So whether that's like a prickly feeling, like it stings you, or you don't really get to have all of the maybe like temporary security that you want, or um, status, or like riches, but you're doing it for something greater. He sees that and he honors it, and like it's never in vain. Like he's by your side, and um, to walk forward, even when you're afraid. I think like when you're afraid, it's kind of easier to like hide, but to walk forward in fear, because even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you feel no evil. Like you're allowed to be afraid, but don't give in to the fear. To act
Hmm.
out of fear.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that really hit me.
Yeah, it hit me because also like it manifests the power of what you say and how you say it, and how your word should have value if you're going to commit to something, and especially if you're committing to God, because normally when you commit to someone else, you could lie, cool, but when you commit to God, if you lie, what does that do to you? Because you don't do the harm to God. God is gonna probably like our good friend Jonah is like, oh, why do I gotta go there? He's gonna forgive them. Like, he's gonna probably forgive you and give you more opportunities. But the harm you do to yourself when you can't comply with your word with God, it's like you cut your blessings. It's like sometimes we with what we say and how we act, we trim down our blessings. So sometimes it's not even the blessings are there. We just like make it disappear with what we say and how we say something. And we have to measure those intentions before even our mouth puts something out there. Uh, Also, don't get me wrong. Like the questions that David is asking the Lord, do we ask those kind of questions to God when we feel afflicted? Like, do we ask the Lord, you that are the Almighty, how would you teach me how to handle this? I have never done it. This to me is opening my mind to it because Lord, please take this pain away. It's like quick, but what is it, Lord, that you need me to suffer for? What is the bigger picture? Like Autumn was saying, Jesus understood the pain, but also focus on the bigger picture.
But sometimes it's even also like how to get through it. Lord, how do I get through this part that I said I need to get done? Like sometimes, like for example, like sometimes you go through things, you'll say yes to something without even knowing how to do it, and then it's like I gotta do it anyway. It's like, dang, I gotta go for
But
it.
I think God measures the good intention. Like He
Yes.
knows, like even if you're not capable, it's like, okay, cool, you don't know how to do it. Try your best,
Yes.
even if it's all messed up. You know?
100%.
It's like kids when they do that. One day, if you guys have kids, your kid's not gonna be a Da Vinci, but he's gonna, or he or she is gonna try to draw something for you guys, and it's just you don't measure like, oh, come, oh, really? You drew this little
It's not even a
graph?
circle.
It's like it's not. Well, your look is like the love they did it with. They try their best, and even though you don't have the ability, but it's the intention you have behind it that is measured.
Yes, yes. No, it goes there. Despite the cost.
Despite the cost. Exactly. The cost of a child not knowing how to draw is feeling that they might be embarrassed that it's not of good quality,
Yeah.
but they put it out there anyway.
Like, you can't overhype them because then they won't get better. Well, you gotta show them like, oh my god, this is really great.
Yeah,
What can you do with this little curve?
Mhm.
It's really good. Gonna go on to 5. Lends no money at interest, accepts no bribe against the innocent. So it's like you lend out something with no interest, and when you go for interest, it's like um something that my dad taught me when I was younger. It's like, oh, somebody's gonna give you like, oh, there's a fly in here, ready for me to catch it.
Oh wait, he's the fly catcher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
You're like
He
Mr.
turns
Miyagi?
Oh, yeah, he really does. He does it. He did it once with his 2 fingers. He just like grabbed it.
Damn,
And
Kevin.
then hype me up with it.
I should have closed the
No, that's all
closed the
right.
window.
Want me to get it?
Kevin's in action.
Here, I get it.
This will be a blooper.
Oh,
He said it's a blooper.
watch all the cameras start falling down, guys. Stay
Oh,
tuned.
he got scared. The flies don't like me.
Yeah.
No,
You're,
he just like
you're like the Lord of the Flies, like the book.
Yeah, one time one time we had like flies in the face, and I had to go like, and then I'll throw them out the window. Like I'll throw them like out the door, because I'm like I don't want to kill it in my hands. So
Kevin. Another one of his hidden talents.
yeah, fly catcher.
With fly catcher. Certified license.
Yeah. Literally, with these 2 hands.
Yeah. They never stand a chance.
So funny.
Cool. So
You were saying your dad with interest.
yes, my dad with interest. He taught me like with banking, because it's banking. Like with things you take out something like credit cards, for example. Like they lend you money, you don't pay it on time, they charge interest. It's basically don't become the banks. Like if you're gonna lend out something, lend it out freely, right? And don't like sometimes it's like when you lend out something, don't expect to like receive it back. And if you do receive it back, it's like,
Cool.
yeah, literally, it's like that's cool. Like just lend it out with like free of charge, with no interest. And if it comes back, it comes back. And if it doesn't come back, that's totally fine too. And there was no interest on that, right? And accepts no bribes against the innocent. And that's the hard part. Like don't accept the bribe against the innocent.
Oh,
I believe it talks also about like how do we treat when we lend our services as well, and or when we even lend money to someone. What is the intention behind doing this?
Yeah.
You know, again, like if you do it out of good faith, you would you will only expect to get what you lend rightfully. And if it's a business, like Kevin is saying, it's going to translate into now you got to pay more. With God, you never pay more.
Can I lock it in the bathroom really fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So, so I think it's very interesting, this phrase, because it tells us be fair,
Mhm.
be fair, be fair. If, like, don't expect more, or also if you do it without expecting anything, also ask yourself, would God not reward you? And I think that's what I like about this. You know, it says, but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath despite the cost, lends no money at interest, accepts no bribe against the innocent. You know, accept no bribe against the innocent. It's like, do you sell yourself to injustice?
Mhm.
You know, we were just in the last song we were talking about the injustices, how people at that time were lamenting, and today the lamentation continue to happen because people sell themselves easily to vanities, to not defend the oppressed, uh, to help the poor, and Jesus was very open about it, saying like you will always have the poor. What is he reminding us of?
I'm even thinking about like um when you like if you sin against somebody, that's a debt. And like you owe somebody something, right? And then what's forgiveness? Forgiveness is clearing that debt
Mhm.
of like what they're due. Like they're due. Okay, I don't know. I can't think of an example right now, but to say I forgive you means I'm gonna clear the debt between us, and I'm gonna get rid of in my heart the like what I feel you owe me because you're the one who disturbed our like our friendship or our bond of trust. That's a debt that you now owe. So I look at that as like there's a greater meaning to it as well, like forgiveness, to forgive somebody means
Mm.
like I'm erasing the debt between us, and I'm not going to charge interest because interest is also like the story we tell ourselves or we relive it over and over and over again, and then
Mm.
you're building up interest in your mind over something, and then to
Resentfulness.
yeah, that's like resentfulness, resentment, but it's also saying like I forgive you, letting the weight of that like roll through your mind and your ears, and there's such gratitude there to hear those words or to ask for forgiveness. Like the prodigal son, right? He gets welcomed back and he everything's restored to him. So
Mm. Restoration.
Yes. Yes. Love that. I love those analogies.
Yeah, yeah,
Great one
yeah.
for especially where it's not just only money.
Mhm.
Services, time, forgiveness, all that. It's like what can you specialize and give with no interest? Like we were saying, giving is what it's all about. Giving.
What you give to the Lord is always well compensated. That's all I know.
mm,
And whoever acts like this shall never be shaken. It's like act accountable. Don't slander, gossip. This disdain the wicked. So like keep wicked at bay, and honor those who fear the Lord. So give them something. Look up to who keeps an oath despite the cause. Like holding to your word. So accountability. Don't don't gossip. Keep wicked at bay. Uh, keep your word and be charitable.
Mm.
And that's I think that's what those are the those are ways to act to be able to
It's a call to action almost.
yes.
That's what David is proclaiming. I believe here is like call to action. Do these things, and you will never be shaken. Your faith would not be shaken.
Yeah, there could be a physical change in somebody who does those too. Like if any of you guys start doing these things, like recognizes the change in yourselves. For example, accountability. There's a big change that happens when you take accountability. You stop blaming your past. You stop blaming the the things that were holding you back, and you start putting it inward. So accountability is huge because you're never going to improve your life if you
Mm.
don't take accountability for where you messed up or where you can improve on or where you can go through. Um, yeah, that's it.
We have one more song, right?
Yeah, we have two more. One more from my side, and then we have all
Hold
those
on. Oh,
songs.
let's go.
Did you pick one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
we
You
go.
did one.
wait.
I got.
We
I
wait.
got. I got one more.
Divine majesty and human dignity.
What is it? What is it? Divine Majesty and Him. Think- Well, I like how they the
Yeah.
separation of those two.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Psalms talks a lot about Jesus too.
Good. Sorry. Go.
you're good. That was good. For the leader upon the Gittith, a psalm of David. O Lord, our Lord, how awesome is your name through all the earth. I will sing of your majesty above the heavens, with the mouths of babes and infants. You have established bulwark against your foes, to silence enemy and avenger. When I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and a son of man that you care for him? Yet you have made him little less than a god, crowned him with the glory and honor. You have given him rule over the works of your hands. Put all these things at his feet, all sheep and oxen, even the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, and whatever swims the paths of the sea. O Lord, our Lord, how awesome is your name through all the earth.
Mm,
Wow.
it's a
That was
proclamation.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. That
That was really beautiful.
who's gonna take that one first?
Oh, that's all. I know, right? That's a
That's a
hard one.
proclamation. That's a David is so sure what he's saying about the power of God, your inheritance, because he's saying like you're below God, but created in His image. You have dominion. Like God has given you power over everything on earth. Like He's recognizing the power of the Lord and what He does with that power. And I love the question he has here. He says, "What is man that you are mindful of him?"
Yeah, right. It's like, why did he choose us over a lion, for example? Right? But it's like, you know what, man is important to God. Makes us. He makes me question, like, even within the stars, the universe, and all that. Why are we important? And then that brings it back to what we had in the beginning with the first Psalm 15, I believe, where it's like, oh Lord, why'd you forget? Right? And it's like, oh, you did all this big mountain. You could do all this. You could do all that. I'm just such a tiny piece in this in the equation. Don't like why'd you forget about me, and Lord? But in this psalm, it's talking about how important man is, how important we are to the Lord. He hasn't forgotten us. He gave us this dominion. He gave us all this because he loves us.
He's counting his blessings almost here.
Hmm.
That's what I can sense that like David is acknowledging his blessings. What like he's not even talking about that he's a king. He's just talking about the divinity that God is and how he feels chosen as a man and that he's so loved by him. It's so touching, very touching.
Hmm.
Like you can see that David really felt that he belonged to the Lord in this point.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And it's like, and he kind of, and it's like, why do we belong to the Lord, right? It's like, why is it that we belong to the Lord? Is it?
And check
Uh-huh.
this out. He says, "Yet you have made him little less than a god, little less." It's like he's acknowledging that he is created in the image of God. Like he is at like just like an inch below God. Only he wants like I want you to be just like me. All you have to do is walk in faith, so you can come into heaven and be just like me. But I'm gonna design you just a little bit lower, little bit. That's why we are creative. This is why we can love, we can forgive. But those are choices we make. Similar to God. God can get furious too.
Yeah. You know, this kind of gets me to think about the times of that time as well, where it's like Pharaoh versus kings, where it's like Pharaoh was considered a god,
God, yeah.
the god conscience, right? Where God's conscience went into Pharaoh and he's that God. But then, like the king, like David, he knows that he's just a little under God, and with that, that gives him space for gratitude towards
Mm.
God.
That's a good point of view. Something Nebuchadnezzar failed to do
Mm.
because he saw himself bigger than God.
Oh,
Yeah,
David Nebuchadnezzar,
yeah,
yeah.
it's actually a very good. It's a very good interpretation about like understanding your place with God.
Hmm.
He's not saying like you're making me feel below. He's saying you have put me so high that I can't even imagine why that you made me close to being like you.
Hmm.
You know, it's a powerful reflection. What do you think, Autumn? Autumn is like, oh, hold on, I need to take this in.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, verse. I know I was just gonna say the words of there. Um, I love that he said you've given him rule over the works of your hands, the birds of the air, whatever swims, the paths of the seas. But verse 5 really hit me. What is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? And
Hmm.
yet you have made him like little less than a god and crowned him with glory and honor.
Hmm.
Um, and what you said too, Kevin, really hit me. Like that we are important to him. Um, I don't know. It just makes me emotional. Like that's how much he loves us. Oh yeah, yeah. When I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, like everything is so intentional for us because he loves us. Um, and like, and yet he rejoices the most in us.
Hmm.
And this is just a very like I feel like this is the heart of God. This one, and he really loves us. And I think about when he created Eve. Um, because for the way he created Adam was also beautiful. Like he breathed life into Adam. For Eve, like he put Adam to sleep, and it was just God, and he was creating Eve, and it's like they were. It was so intimate, and he took the rib from Adam, and then created Eve, and it's like to be held by the eyes of God. The way he created us was so intentional and beautiful, and he made us in the image of himself. Like when we're all looking at each other, we're all looking at like what the face of God looks like. And I think of Jesus and he says, I'm the face of the Father, and I'm like you guys really love us that much, and that's why it amazes me how the devil's so offended because he's like, you're giving them all this honor, like, and it's like, wow, like the angels don't even have the privileges that we have. It's a beautiful reflection of his heart.
Yeah, I think that's the
Very
envy.
emotional.
That's the envy. The fact that that we have free will. None of them have that besides us and God. But it's such a beautiful poem. It is. It explains everything in such
Yeah.
detail of like how what is the relevance and why. Like there's no answer to it because the love of God is it's it's a mystery of how infinite it is. We can't understand it. We just can't. Think about it. Think about like through your whole life, how many times you sin. Just think about that. Are you dead? Are you missing a leg? Are you missing an arm? Are you missing an eye? No.
He's merciful.
He's merciful. Like, and we don't understand that mercy. And it's funny because if you really look at Christ, Christ is telling you that you can do anything through Christ. What does that mean? You can do everything through love, everything through faith. You can do everything through forgiveness. How can you move forward if you resent? How can you heal if you don't forgive? How can you accomplish great things if you don't love? So I believe Christ gives you the answer in terms of like what to do with your emotions. how can you use it to your benefit? And it is such a great, powerful uh, advice. Like, go love.
Yeah.
Why you focus on doing negative things? You already know where that comes from. Go out there and do good.
Something I learned, which I need to practice doing more often, is a great friend of mine. He taught me at least maybe once a month or maybe every 2 weeks, take time for prayer and go into like that room in your heart where you've been hurt and slighted or where you're hurting and say, in the name of Jesus, I forgive Sally for X, Y, and Z. In the name of Jesus, I forgive Robert for X, Y, and Z. You can close your eyes and you're picking up the weeds and then you're giving it to Jesus. And it's such a beautiful, like radical act because sometimes we've been hurt, right? And we can't help. Like, do I want to carry like the lingering effects of that? No. But there's something that we can do with it, like, to give it into the hands of Jesus and to like call it by name, the person by name. But then to say in the name of Jesus, I forgive you. And it's in private, right? And you're doing it between you and God, and then you get to throw away the note. You get to throw it away, and then you're like, oh. And he told me you do it every so often, or like as often as you still feel the hurt, and then little by little, Jesus like he heals it and goes away. And it's such a beautiful practice because it teaches us when we feel those feelings to go and forgive and talk about it with Jesus and then let Jesus into those memories because we all have memories where we question, God, were you even there when I was going through that? I know I do. And I'm like, where were you? And then by sitting in this act, I'll share with you guys, it's so tender because it really hurts. And it's such an act of trust with God because you're kneeling and I'm very imaginative, but you're kneeling and you're opening up that memory. So you're opening up that door and he's like, I was right there. And I didn't want that to happen. Unfortunately, what we all seem to forget is people have free will. Sometimes, whether it's our parents or our friends or people we're around, sometimes we can suffer consequences because of the free will of others around us, right? But maybe that wasn't God's intention for us. So sometimes he works in a way where he's always rerouting, like especially when I'm driving and I miss a turn. And then I get like nervous. I'm like, you know what? I know I'll just be rerouted. Maybe it'll add like an extra 30 minutes. So I'm like, it's fine. I'll get to where I need to go. And that's something he's taught me. It's like, even when I've had to reroute you and it's added ETA time on the GPS,
Yeah.
you're going to get to where I need you to be. And I've sat with him and he showed me his love was always there and he's gotten me to where I needed to be. And that's to understand his love for me because there's been a lot of figures right around me. I'll speak for myself where they didn't always perfectly portray his love and it made it a little harder for me to understand his heart. So I'm like, but if you loved me, why did this happen? Why did you allow this to happen? And he's like, I had to reroute you to understand my love, but here we are. And then to give him those memories and allow him to heal them and walk through them with me and to know like, oh, you were there the whole time. You were there with me the whole time and I didn't know, but how good you are that like I feel you now and I know what to do for the next time. I just wanted to share that with you guys just because to hear this too of what is man that you are mindful of him and the son of man that you care for him. For me, it's like he holds our pain, but he wants us free. And so it takes a lot of work. I'm not going to lie to you guys and say it's easy and it's great, but what an act of trust to give it to him and let him go in there. And it makes me think of the tomb of Lazarus. Like sometimes we have to roll away that stone and there's a stench that comes out. And I don't even want to look at it because it's so like, smelly. But what does he say? Lazarus, arise. And he calls us up out of our death. So,
Oh yeah. You have no debtors.
I think through forgiveness comes also like accountability. Like for example, if there's a let's say you're fighting with your sibling and your sibling punches you in the face, right? Like like you could forgive them, right? It's like, I want something because you punched me in my face. And it's like, no matter how much ice cream or cookies your sibling gives you, like, you're still gonna be mad that they punched you in the face. So they can't do anything. They can't do anything to basically make you forgive. They could throw a whole bunch of ices, toys, games at you, and it's like, you punch me in my face, you know? So if like forgiveness comes from being accountable, like from the other psalms that we're reading, with King David, it's like be like forgive them in for you. Like forgive, like picking up the trash, throwing out the garbage. Do it because you're doing it also for God, right? What would God do for us? Like again, like how many times have we sinned and God has forgiven us?
Mhm.
Forgiveness is one of those big accountability things. And what if God didn't forgive us, right? Like that's what if God wasn't accountable to forgiving us and He held the weight above our heads? Like how many storms would be outside right now? How many pits would be open of lava? Like if that didn't happen, like how many things of anger and wrath would be on the earth for just humans sinning? But instead He forgives them for that for that reason. He knows the power of that, and only He can do it. No matter what we do, no matter how many Hail Marys we recite, no matter how many Our Fathers we recite, the power of forgiveness comes from God. But then if you need to forgive somebody too, like the Hail Marys and Our Fathers, like it's not a set thing. You're gonna say 20 Hail Marys and you're forgiven. No, that's basically like me saying, I'm gonna give you 20 ices and then you're gonna forgive me for punching you in the face.
I
Like,
lo- I
Well,
lo-
if you have a hardened heart, the prayer is what softens your heart to forgive. I was just thinking too, I don't mean to interrupt. A man and a woman understand God differently, which is also what makes us different. It's so beautiful. But like sometimes as a man, it's kind of I'm thinking of like the shields, right, and the swords, and you guys are like doing your war cries, and then the woman relates to God on like a softer, like level. Because I'm thinking too, like it's hard to forgive. It's hard to forgive, and so we're required to forgive because He says that. He's like, you have to forgive because I am forgiving you. And yet He's so good because He doesn't just say like take our neck, forgive. He's like, you're not able to forgive because of all of these things that have happened, and you've become hard-hearted, and you don't trust, and you're afraid. Like He take all this into consideration, and then He's like, so we're gonna start here. And so sometimes by saying the prayer, we don't see the effect of like what happens. Because again, He's outside of time, so He sees everything in a way that we don't see it. Sometimes by saying the prayers, or by from doing something out of routine or discipline, it softens our heart to when He asks us, all right, it's time now. It's time to go there. I don't know if you guys have ever watched The Shack, but He prepares the father
Mhm.
to go to the point where he sees the daughter's funeral. Like, it always gets me because the whole time he's talking to God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, and they're all having him do something, right? He's digging, then he's picking flowers, then he's in the carpentry shop, and then what happens? It's time to forgive, and it's time to confront what you've been. And he breaks down. He gets on his knees. He has her body in his hands, and he's like, "Why are you making me do this?" And he's crying. What was all that leading up to it? They were little by little, by him picking the flowers. They were talking to him, and they say to him, "All right," and they hold him. We have to do something now. That's tough. And the whole time, God, the Father, was appearing to him as a mother, because that's what he needed. And when it was time to go into the hard part, he appeared as a father. He's like, "We're gonna get through this." And it always sticks with me because in the story she goes missing and they never find her. But in the act of forgiveness, they gave him her body, he grieves and he's mourning and he's like wailing, and then they show her, they show him her in heaven, and she's playing and she waves, and it always gets me because I'm like, the act of forgiveness sometimes it's so hard because he wanted to kill the person who murdered his daughter. He's like, that's the justice that this guy deserves, and yet God came to him and said, we have to get you to forgive so that you can release this. And at the end of the movie, they show you him in church and he's singing again with his family. And oh, that movie produces so many tears, but it shows how good God is. Like, it's a process. Our heart, it's messy and it's hard to get to our hearts, but he does it in such a beautiful way. And I speak from experience too, because when you have to confront the hard and the ugly, he's there to lift us. So
Yeah.
sorry.
That was a good movie. I remember that movie. Just just taking it from where you were saying, like how God redirects you, like a GPS. And although the time might be a little bit, it's going to be a little bit more time consuming. There's this saying that bad drivers never miss an exit, and I compare it to like what free will for bad people looks like. You might be the good driver, and then suddenly, bad drivers don't never miss an exit, comes from nowhere to go into that exit, deviates you from it, but avoids you from crashing with that bad driver. And it gets redirected in a point where now you're safe again. And that's what God always wants, our safety. Even if you have those bad drivers that never miss an exit.
Mm.
Again, I will say it again. Bad drivers never miss an exit. If you see one of them, just slow down, let them go on their course. They're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about if they're late, they're thinking about their priorities. They're not even thinking about their own life. That's
Mm.
how selfish a human being can think of. They could just think about like my time, my me, and they in that selfish thought, they don't even think about their own life. They're putting their life in danger. And forgiveness, it's definitely hard, uh, and definitely it's a process. I believe the hardest thing is forgiving ourselves. Because we don't know how to weep. We have a hard time confessing to God our pain. Um, we have a hard time validating ourselves through the pain. What is it that is keeping us awake at night that we don't know how to cope with? Uh, and we are not sensitive to ourselves. We are harsh judged to ourselves most of the time. Why am I not doing this? Or is this enough? We're always questioning ourselves. And like you're saying, God is telling us, like, whatever you did today was a small advancement. So that's the blessing, the small steps you take, and being truthful to each other. It's so important, the communication. And I take this in reference of like two people that make a decision to be together. Like the bond you have to create is so difficult because now you got to carry two crosses and make that one cross. And both people have to understand when you're stronger because of circumstance of life, how will you carry the cross with that other person that is weaker in that moment? Where will you put the weight on that person, and vice versa? Because again, in life, I believe we're like sometimes we're up here and the other person is down here. It's like if we forget like how Jesus comes to us always down to us because we just ignore so much. And I think that's the power. That's how forgiveness should start. You're up here, the person that hasn't forgive is down here. So you come down there to their level to lift them up and love them through the process, even if when it's hard. And King David talks about you know, despise. Remember the oath. Remember the compromise. Remember the sacrifice. Like in the last song he's talking about, and how these two relate. It's important that we understand that when we make the decision to forgive and to love somebody, we need to understand what part of the cross and how much weight we have to carry, because that other person perhaps doesn't can't even lift it off the ground yet. But yet our expectation is like they should be one finger doing, marionettes on the air with it, when we don't understand that person doesn't can't even pick it off the ground yet. But Jesus does understand that with us so well.
I think you can't. It's kind of bold, but I don't think you're able to love unless you know that you're loved. Because if you don't know that you're loved by God, and it goes back to like identity. If you don't know that you're loved and who whose you are, it's kind of like you're constantly. I'm just thinking out loud right now, but like I think you're constantly seeking or grasping some sort of like someone to be like, this is who you are, that you're loved, you know? And I think I actually am reading a book, and the reading for today was about there's only one country in the entire world who's never had a divorce. It's somewhere in Bosnia. And they said, like, that country has faced so much persecution for their faith. They're Christian, and they face communism, they face all this stuff. And they're talking about how sacrifice and salvation go hand in hand, and you have to like sacrifice something. Love comes with sacrifice. And so they're saying like when they get married, they kneel on the altar and they bring a crucifix up to the altar, and the priest says to them like, "You both have found your cross. May you cherish it. May you let it strengthen you. May you grow from it, and may you never abandon it and try to get rid of it." And then the couple says their vows. Oh, and while they're saying it, her hand is on the crucifix and his hand is over her hand, over the cross. And then he says, like, you have found your cross. Then they say their vows to each other. And before they kiss each other, she kisses the cross and then he kisses the cross. And then the priest, like, ties their hand around the cross. They have never had a divorce in that country. It blows my mind. And so the author is saying, like, it's because they know what the real meaning of love is. It's sacrifice. And then they said like, so then they bring the cross home and they display it in their house. And anytime they have a problem, they bring it to the foot of the cross. When they have kids, they give the kids to the foot of the cross. And then the kids every night kiss the cross because the parents kiss the cross on their wedding day. And so he just ties in like our society right now has forgotten what it means to truly love, and sacrifice comes with that. And the cross is like the like root of love.
Mhm. I like what you're saying, because like this is the most tangible example here. Think about us doing the Ethics Skill podcast on the wall. What is the sacrifice?
Oh, man. Time is one of the
That's
biggest
one. If you keep
sacrifices.
naming
I
like
don't know. There's a couple. I don't know. A couple of sacrifices.
time,
Time, reputation.
reputation,
Right.
work, initiatives,
Yeah.
relationship, social integration, technology, investment, money, finances, outseeking, partnerships. There's so many sacrifices you got to make, that, and to obtain what?
Oh, I think it's more to give than second to attain. Like to obtain a freedom, honestly. 'Cause like that's what it's all. That's what we're doing this for, right? To be free in a certain way.
And that's a good analogy, because what we're trying to create is value. Now, think about like how hard it is to obtain value. Takes time. You gotta be considerate with yourself. Put on all this time, all this investment, And at the end, you might obtain value. Might. It's not a guarantee. All that sacrifice. Now, how does value make you feel?
uh, Goes hand in hand, right? Valuable in a sense, because like you attain value, you make you. There's a preconceived notion that if you're obtaining high values, then you're also valuable. Some people connect it like that, but then you're also like if you obtain value, you could be perceived like I guess it really depends, right?
It's tricky
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're seen as, oh, you finally are valuable.
But you always been
You
valuable. You
exactly, you
always been.
always been valuable since you started.
Hmm.
Because the true value of the sacrifice is it's not determined on how you ended. It's when you started, you had that vision, you had that value system, and you made it a reality. So you were always valuable. You just showcase it in a different way. You showcase it from here to the outside world. Now everyone can see it. Everyone can see your true value because you were able to display it. And that's where also we don't understand the importance of like what is true value. True value, nobody can either add or take it away from you. You can learn how to add more value yourself. You're like, okay, I'm going to take this and it's going to add more value, but nobody can take it away either. You evaluate yourself with your behavior, your decisions, the same way you elevate yourself with in the same way. So think about like the things we do to obtain value.
It reminds me of a Jim Ron quote.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love Jim Ron.
yeah, I
He's
know.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Go
know.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So like one of Jim Ron's one of his mentors told him, Jim Ron, you have to make a goal to make $1 million. And from there, his and he was like, how the heck do I make $1 million? But Jim Ron, but his mentor said, you have to make it. And when you make $1 million, after that, you give it all away. For it's not the money that came to, but it's who you became to get the $1 million.
Mhm.
It's like when when you do arise to value, you do upgrade yourself in a sense to go into different levels. It's a level thing too, right? Like there's levels to it. So you're upgrading yourself. You're giving your the it's just a reward. And then when you get the reward, give it all away. You know how to get it. You know how to get it now. So give it all away. Get it again. You on the pursuit on the pursuit of success, on the pursuit of value, on that pursuit, you ultimately become better. But then if you're not pursuing like becoming valuable, or if you're not pursuing becoming successful or things like that, I mean like you kind of stay at like you kind of stay at a certain point. You can't get past a certain glass ceiling, and it's not that value diminishes. It's more like the potential of a person that doesn't see themselves being valuable or doesn't see themselves going to a certain place. It's like the potential starts to dwindle like a burning flame,
Mhm.
and then it goes into a like a ember.
Yeah, it's a good analogy because think about it. To obtain value, you do all these sacrifices, as I was saying before. And now the question is, we do all this to create value. And when things are rocky and things are not working out, you even sacrifice more for that value to increase.
Yeah.
But value also has a top. Like it at some point that value is going to decrease and it's going to increase, and it's unstable. You never know where that value is. The question is this: if we value the Ethics Guild podcast, let's say, and I reference this as you guys being a couple, I'll use you guys as an example, and you put all this sacrifice, you make the Ethics Guild podcast and the walk work, and you understand this. Now, what is more valuable that does not deserve more attention than the value you created through the ethics guild, than your love for one another? That is more valuable than any of the things you would do to obtain value at the ethic field, because love is irreplaceable. The same thing, ask yourself, if you're able to do that in a relationship, now you let's go to another dimension. Why not do that for God, where God love is infinite? There is a value that's beyond, that doesn't have an end.
Yeah.
So if I measure value and love, you create value out of love to create value for yourself and for others. But it has a top. It has a limitation. Then if you are able to do that, you can do that as a couple. And love has its ups and downs, like any relationship. But if you were able to sacrifice so much for material things and status, you're able to apply that in your relationship and balance that. Now, if you know how to do these two things, it also prepares you to say, okay, now I'm going to go to the big bucks. What is the big buck? The Lord. Infinite love, heaven, eternity. We're talking about things that are beyond value. And guess what? You know how many tries you get?
Ultimate. Yeah.
Exactly. He's going to be there mentoring you. When you went into the ethics field, who mentored you? You learn the hard way. In your relationship, how did you learn with your couple? You learn the hard way. God is telling you, I'm going to mentor you. I got an SOP for you right there. Guess what? Read it. And trust me, things will be better if you try to do your best to commit to the SOP. Now, be free with yourself. Be free. I want you to be free. But remember, you have a guide. And also, you have me. There's a part of Jesus says very clearly, because he's condemning the Pharisees about how they're praying. They're very repetitious. He doesn't want that. Jesus, I don't remember what paragraph he says this, what verse, but he says that's where he comes like Heavenly Father, you know, and he teaches us what prayer should look like, and it's so important that you understand if you're able to invest so much on value and then the love in a relationship. Those two are like your preparation stone to be going after the big dog, which is your Lord and Savior,
Very much.
and it's not easy. So
I think he wants you to explore the world too. Like exploration of the world is one of those big things. He created it for exploration. Like if you didn't like, for example, like the church is in the wild, right? But the God's world is in the wild. I mean, you see when things are tamed by humans versus when things are tamed by nature. When things are tamed, and when we go to nature, we find it beautiful and it's chaos. Versus humans, we try to create order in a sense.
it's organized chaos.
It's an organized chaos. It very much is an organized chaos. So the wilderness is kind of
But
like,
there's a difference. There's ignorance on one side, and there's wisdom, and there's knowledge on the other. And when you act with knowledge and you still become chaotic, there's a bigger accountability to be upon versus you being completely ignorant. Even in the Bible says that there's a difference. Like if you ignore the word versus you knowing the word, you are more guilty because you knew what it's you were supposed to do with the word. There's a responsibility with it too. This is why he understands you're going to be tempted. You are going to be tempted, man. You're going to be tempted one day at the ethics. It's like, oh, this is not working out. I'm going to give up. That's the temptation. It happens. It's going to happen. It's going to go through it. The same thing. Kevin is being a pain. Should I like and vice versa? Like Autumn is like, oh my gosh, she's being annoying right now. Yeah, but
she's
understand.
laughing because she's like, Kevin,
Yeah,
that's so
but
true.
think about the bigger
Kind of
picture.
annoying.
Yeah, think about.
Yeah.
That all day saying that.
Yeah.
I get something out of breath for fun.
It's not for fun.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's almost like the Lord is so good to us that He allows us to create our own value to learn from it, from value of work, value of a loving relationship, to even prepare ourselves to go to that bigger investment, which is him. It's so amazing. Like he gives us that free will, and because we are created in his image, we're able to create these things, right? Relationships, businesses. But then we should that how if you're best so well in those two things, why is it that we're not good investors in something that we know it has infinite value, and these are limited value?
Because work doesn't make us valuable, and money doesn't make us valuable. We're valuable because he says we're valuable. Like, our worth and our value come from him, like his mouth saying it and speaking it onto us. And I think like that's why, like for me, I always come back to the idea of like, what is our posture with the Lord? Because everybody has to have a personal encounter with him. Everybody has to come to him individually. Um, because I think, it's easy to like, it's easy, even in the, Kevin, what psalm was that just now? With the,
15.
15.
with the,
Or no, 8 or which? Hold on, which
with the,
one?
I think it's 8.
money, where he talks about the money.
Yeah, the debtor. Like if you're going to loan, you're gonna lend money.
Yeah,
Make sure you don't charge interest.
I think it was that one. But it's so easy for us to get caught up in, okay, whatever. Anyway, it's easy for us to get caught up in attaining money or thinking like, and again, there's nothing wrong with making money. Like God wants you to provide for your family, and he blesses that. For me, it's like a detachment from like, or a thirst for like
Luxury.
an abundance maybe of things. But it's easy. The only reason is because if you don't know who you are, and then you start making money, I'm speaking to myself. If you start making money and you don't know who you are, that becomes your value. Because then one day when it all gets taken away, like in Job, what do you have? All you have left is your prayers to the Lord. And you're not valuable because of the job you work. You're not valuable because of the money you make. You're not valuable because of what you do, or the knowledge you have. You're valuable because God says that you're valuable. And that is why that's always attacked. That's the first thing that the devil goes after. You're not worthy of that. You don't deserve that. God doesn't love you for that. And it's like, no, right, God loves me because he loves me.
He make that choice. Yeah, I was just telling Kevin, like like creating value from the ethics skill. Let's say, like, where's your true value if you accomplish, like, let's say this becomes super big, you were valued from the very beginning. It's not like your value system doesn't change just because you added more money into your bank account, but you were valued because you had that vision from the very beginning. The only difference, you were able to make it tangible. Now, other people are gonna say you are more valuable when you obtain, fame, but if you are sure about yourself, you knew you were valuable, perhaps even more valuable back then than where you ended up. Because at the end of the day, it takes a lot of courage to do and expand something out of thin air.
Yeah.
And also,
it takes trust.
and also, you should feel exactly. It takes trust. You should feel blessed because the Lord not only provided, but gave you wisdom to do it, gave you the knowledge, gave you the capability, gave you the tools. Like everything we see here, like guys, you can't see this, but everything here is a blessing.
Oh yeah.
Like everything. Think about if we didn't have this and we were doing this in the park with just one phone. That's also a blessing.
Yeah, 100%.
Because
That's
we
the
have
only
a phone.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great lesson right there.
So I think it's counting our blessings is so important too. What is the last song we got?
Oh, this is for you. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
hot potato. It's like the hot potato. It's like Kevin is like, I felt like that phone was like a banana, man.
Yeah, right.
Like you tried to get rid of it right away, buddy. I was like, here you go.
So I chose this song because one, it made me. It's very. The images are very striking, and it makes me think of Jesus's passion, and yeah, you guys will understand. So it's Psalm 22 verses 14 to 15, and it says, "I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax; it is melted within my breast. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to my jaws. You lay me in the dust of death." Um, and it strikes me because that verse, my tongue sticks to my jaws, and it makes me think like when you're in like the heart of suffering, you're not alone, you know. And my heart is like wax, like when wax is, wet and gooey, and then you place a seal on it and it hardens. Like I want, may my prayer is like may my heart always be like ready for the Lord to make his impression on me, so that he can set a seal on me.
Mhm.
Um,
The heart melt as wax is pretty vivid. Talking about flexibility,
mhm,
you know, what could be more flexible and take shape like wax?
yeah. Um, and then the other psalm that I had is Psalm 62, verse 5 through 8. For God alone my soul waits in silence, for my hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not be shaken. On God rests my deliverance and my honor. My mighty rock, my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us.
I wonder if David wrote that one.
Oh,
'Cause it sounds
maybe.
very like vivid, like the rock refuge. Yeah, I believe David is very specific about his poems of the Lord,
Mhm,
with finding the Lord being his fortress
mhm.
and his place where he will always feel safe. But I love that because it's about safety, how you should feel safe with God. And what is it that makes you feel safe about being with God?
Oh, it's such a good question. Mm.
Oops, sorry.
That's such a beautiful question. I think his his stability and his words always have his word is alive. So every time that you come to his word, he fills you with life and you never walk away from him in death or in despair. He's the life giver. He 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 just embraces you and his embrace is so warm and he's true. Like he's faithful to me when I'm not faithful to him. Time and time again. Like he never is not there. Like he's always there with arms open, like ready to embrace me. And that was a really good question. Wow.
It reminds me of like we are Gomers, and in some situations we become Gomers, like the story of Hosea. And how hard must be for God to love us unconditionally, but yet he chose that for us. He made that choice, and his word is trustworthy. Like to me is I know that God, not only I know that he's always good and fair, but even if I'm going to something bad, I know that it's fair. And I believe that is what gives me a little bit of peace. Like even if I'm going through the worst tormentation. I know that there must be something maybe that I did. Maybe there's something I need to learn. But whatever is happening, it's fair. Although that doesn't.
I know. I was just gonna say because Job.
Yeah. Although that doesn't remove the pain away, and I might never get an answer, because it could be that God said, "Hey, I'm gonna shake your homeboy Wendell," and he was like, "Go ahead. He's gonna still be with me." I don't know those things. I don't need to know, and I don't need to understand. But I know that for whatever it is, he's gonna be fair to me. He's gonna restore me. He's gonna make me feel uh, that that test was just that. It was just a test. Maybe to test my faith. Maybe to test the love that I should have for him, or to learn something. But whatever the case is, I do believe that I need to trust in him. But that's the hard part, is to trust during the times of tribulations. And I put myself in the heart of Hosea through Gomer. He knew she was doing something shady. He knew that she was like with lovers. He knew that those kids weren't his. And yet, how can we be a Hosea to forgive? Although I could imagine he must have cried.
Mm.
It doesn't say in the Bible he sorrowed, he cried, but he was a human. He's not Jesus either. He's not at Jesus level, but he was a human. But I think it shows us that it is doable.
Well, yeah, because I mean, Gomer's an extreme example, and that's why that story is so striking. But how you get through that is by remembering where it began. Like when he created Adam, when he created Eve, like he created them with so much love, and they dwelt in the Garden of Eden. That like, they were in unity with each other. Like that was his intention for us. And I think whenever we get lost or we get shaken, journey back into the garden of God, because that's where he was, that's where he dwelled. And the purpose of him creating Adam and Eve was to love them. He wanted to love us, and Adam and Eve, they were sons and daughters of him. And that was the original intention. He just wanted to journey with them and love them. And even when they were like what's the word, expelled from the garden, he made them animal skins and then journeyed with them. It wasn't like he banished them out and then they were leaving. He went with them, and like that's where it really everything like unfolded from there. And there's a beautiful painting from this painter, and it shows the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve like leaving, and it's so beautiful because it's like that's what we were intended for, and that's where we're gonna journey back to.
That actually had me. Sorry, just like a thing, just like this, like I had like a little spark in my head of where we were in the beginning of the conversation, like where it's like where the pair protects you like a wing, right? And it's like here goes the wing. One of the things is like God knows what's gonna happen. Like, were we actually supposed to stay in Garden of Eden? Because then that makes us kind of ignorant to what's outside of the garden. Like, what if it was protecting us by showing us what's outside of the garden, but also surviving outside of the garden while being beside us? Because then, like, imagine, like, you're in the oasis, the sanctuary, the refugee, which is the Garden of Eden. You're stuck in the refugee. Like, what happens if you don't go outside of the refugee? Like, do you become weak and brittle? Right? Like, or how do you get stronger? Right? One of my things is like I think God will meet you outside of the refugee. Like He hovers the refugee. He's there protecting the refugee like a bird in its wing. But I think where he really meets you is really in the field. Like when you're really outside of the refugee, when you're in those points of putting yourself on the line, putting yourself to do this, to do that, right? And it's like I think that's where you're really gonna meet God. Like to reflect back onto the white room and the red zone, right? The white room is the Garden of Eden, for example. It is that place. You know what? You go there for refugee. You go there for place. but outside, like, and he has his arm over the white room. Doesn't mean that he's not there. He's there protecting it, right? But where he really is in the red zone outside of the refugee. Um, and where do we place ourselves? Do we stay stuck in our own refugees, and do we decide to step out of it to strengthen ourselves? And when we strengthen ourselves, it's kind of like a testimonial to faith as well. Like when you step outside of your refugee, you say, "Hey, God, like what we're doing right now is learning as students." But then when we bring it out to the real world, outside of this, we become practitioners. We practice what we're learning. Because like God's here right now too, hovering and on our path forward. But then when we step into the real world experiences, that's when we really become practicing. Like
Yeah.
like
I like what you said because but also that shows like our human behavior. Like you can have something of value of being in heaven because to walk with God, even on earth, is like being in heaven. You are in connection with God. So, like the prodigal son, everything that's mine is yours. Like, what is God saying? Like, if you're with me, you have everything that I can offer you in heaven here. And you choose, and this is where remember we're talking about value. Did we value heaven when we were there?
yeah.
We got tempted, and the first temptation was I want to give you something of equal or more value. But then this is why I was making the comparison about building value and then building and choosing love. Value is shaky. It comes and goes. Love, on the other hand, is something that if you choose to do it, like the song that you did, the oath, did you commit to your word of loving? So it hasn't been even, but it's interesting also what you're saying. Like I don't have the answer. I
Yeah.
can only speculate that when we chose the wrong value, because they made the devil made Adam and Eve make a decision, and they decided like this might be a little bit more value. We know more, and it was a dangerous thing to choose. Again, when they chose that, what did God say? It's like okay, cool. Uh, you decided that, but I'm gonna mentor you through the whole journey, because now I'm gonna create a different value. I'm gonna create that you value coming back to the garden. Since you didn't value, like I hate to say this, put this in perspective. It's like when a guy cheats on a girl that they love, and they love them, but they make the choice to go with somebody that they were impressed by. And they once they are not in that relation, they're like, damn, I miss her. I love her so much, and I wish I didn't make that. But what is your redemption to go back? Like you won't value it until like you commit to going through a journey of like I wouldn't say suffering, but learning the lesson and repairing yourself and healing yourself, and then also helping heal that person that you hurt in the process if they decide to take your back.
I
Because now you learn the true value, like what it is to have that girlfriend and what is it not to have her, and how difficult it is to regain that person's trust and love. It's hard. It's harder than just having it.
I'm thinking about also like with the garden, like it's like we're his children as well. I mean, like the tree is the fruit of good and evil, and the tree of life. They're both truths in the world, right? And if Adam and Eve didn't eat the apple of the tree of good and bad, of good and evil, that they wouldn't know what evil is. And that's why they were so easy to get manipulated by the snake because they don't know that it's their ignorance of what was the evil. But then from eating the tree, it makes them a little stronger, right? Because now they understand what the tree of good and evil is. So the children are not ignorant anymore.
But that's the thing. God was protecting them from that evil. That's his job. Like the day you have a child and you want him to learn how to take his first steps. You're not just gonna let him go loose. You know he's gonna break his head if you're not there attentively, learning how he should take those steps. So what was God doing? God was like protecting us. Like, I know that if you eat from there, you're going to suffer to get back home
But it's
because it's a
I think
journey.
I think it's a must though. I think it was a need because it's like if you didn't go through that process, like that's like saying I'm going to teach my kids all of the good in the world, right? But I'm going to teach them all the good without teaching them the bad. And the first bad that they encounter becomes a shock. Yeah, yeah, because they don't know.
No,
Well,
you
it's
just
so
reminded me of something.
interesting
Go ahead, Audrey.
because, like, so we're rewinding to a time where there was no sin. And so God didn't give Adam and Eve, like, he didn't bind them to like obeying him and worshiping him. He gave them free will. So the trees were in the garden, right? They were so close to God, like they knew who he was. And when the devil came in, he got Eve to sin against trusting in God. This is why we all struggle with trusting in God, because that was the sin that she fell to. Adam was right next to her. Like, literally, they were right here together looking at the snake. Sometimes when I read that, I'm like, oh, he was far away.
But he
It's
didn't
not
know
true.
evil. He doesn't know evil, Adam. He's
Right, but
looking at it like, oh, he's talking good.
right, no, but
Right?
what's the first thing that he did when God's like, what happened? He goes, oh, she made me sin. He throws her under the bus. So he was like, oh, it's not her fault. And honestly, like, I'll say it really quickly, just try to like follow me. But
Take your time. Take your time.
so Adam threw Eve under the bus, and Eve mistrust God, which broke his heart because they were given free will. God wanted their love freely. That's how it's true and beautiful. Jesus is the new Adam. So Jesus does everything that Adam failed to do. And there's a beautiful point in the Bible in the wedding at Cana where Jesus looks at Mary and he calls her woman. And people are like, oh, he's so disrespectful to his mom. What he's doing is he's calling her the new Eve because the only other woman who he referred to as that was Eve. They both did what Adam and Eve failed to do. Adam didn't protect Eve. He left her out there to the devil. What does Jesus do? He protects his church. What does he do? He dies for his church. He dies for us. He shows us what Adam should have done. And he redeems what Adam did. And God and Jesus comes and shows us how to trust in the Father, which is what Adam didn't do. He didn't protect Eve. Eve, on the other hand, she's controlling. She didn't trust God, right? And then you have Mary. What did Mary do? You're gonna bear the Son of God. And she says, yes, like, may it be done unto me according to thy word. She trusts wholeheartedly and doesn't, like, I don't want to say doesn't question, yeah. But, like, she doesn't grasp at it. She allows it to happen. And then let's fast forward to the crucifix, right? He's on the cross and he says, woman, behold your son. And then, son, behold your mother. He calls her woman again. He's exalting woman again because Eve, like, she sinned and like he didn't trust. So he's redeeming woman again. And he's showing what he's the new Adam and the new Eve.
You know what's funny that you mentioned that it's almost like if God was to tell you at free will, he has a he has Autumn and he has Gomer right next, and he tells you truth. It's your choice. Because I love you. Like the day you have a child, it's almost like reliving what God does with us. You can't control your child. He's gonna have to choose the Gomers or the Autumns, right? And like for example, who will you choose? Sometimes we choose the Gomers because what we see here is too like is could this bad really be bad? And then you go there and then you're like, oh my God, it is horrible. And then you suffer. And then you come back and then you choose. You learn, yes, it's a learning experience. But the choice is there. Like God doesn't want you to take that route, not because He wants you to be ignorant. He just doesn't want. There's no need to suffer when there's good to be offered, and that's where we struggle sometimes. It's like the best thing are put right in front of our face, and we know it's good. We know it's gonna be really good, and then we're like, oh yeah, but I don't know this, so I'm gonna see what that means. And then you go there, it's like, oh man, that was such a terrible experience. Yes, you learned God was with you, the whole time teaching you, like, okay, cool, don't worry, I got you. So you want to go there, I'll go with you. Let's go. Okay, you're suffering, don't worry, I got you. But remember, you have this choice. You always have this choice. But like you said, was it needed? I really don't know. I can't think like God because I am not God. But I can tell you that God would never give you a serpent for a stone, like a serpent for a toy. He will make you choose what's right for you, and he puts it like like what do you call it? When
Clickbait.
yeah, clickbait. It's like a huge. It's like yeah, it's like it's so easy, but then it's like I'll swap, and then it's like oh, this one doesn't look up, but I'll still go in there. So yeah, don't get me wrong, it's human nature, and you see it throughout the whole Bible.
Can I share something really fast? But I was reading something where so when Adam and Eve were in the garden, like it was always God's plan for Jesus to become incarnate and to be born. And Mary was always like in God's thought, right? So the devil was so jealous over this, and they talk about this in Revelation. Like the devil really like hates her. And when he was in the garden tempting Eve, he thought that was Mary. And like Jesus's birth was always withheld from him. So he never knew like when Jesus was going to be born. And so when he was in the garden, he saw the woman, and he went after her because he was going to try to like stop it from happening, and that's not what happened. And then that's why like
He just initiated it because now we understand what the difference between life and good and evil.
and that's why
Like that was the initiation of, in my belief, like that apple needed to happen. We wouldn't be having this conversation if we didn't know the difference between good and evil.
So we call it "Oh Happy Fault" because like we got something even better out of it. Because in the garden,
Exactly.
in the garden,
Good point,
yeah,
Kevin.
we weren't in heaven, right? He dwelled with us, but now we get to go into heaven. So it's like "Oh Happy Fault," and in Revelation, like she crushes his head. Like there's a reason. Like he like they have very like animosity, and she like they already won. So with Adam and Eve, it was very calculative, and that's like he tries to like take us down, but like how beautiful like that he's already been crushed. Yeah.
You know something? That Adam and Eve episode when we go there is gonna
I
be
know.
Oh, it's gonna be
it's gonna be bananas.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin.
No, you're
It's
good.
gonna be
It's
bananas.
gonna be bananas.
We're having some bananas here. All right, guys, we have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
What is the next episode going to be about? It's going to be announced by Autumn. Autumn, please.
So
Be honored.
stay tuned, guys. We are going to journey up the mount and unravel the Beatitudes. So we hope that you join us next week. Bring your questions, bring your open hearts and your open ears, and let's journey through it together.
Let's go. I hope you liked it. It was I love the debate. I also love the fact that we learned so much from the Psalms and how praising and lamenting is the right way to honor God through our tribulations. So stay tuned for more of The Walk and check us out at Ethics Field Podcast. We got some cool interviews going on there too. So we'll see you next time.
I'm trying to coexist. Yeah, I'm trying to coexist. I'm trying to coexist.